Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Legend Fiction show and live stream. I'm your host, Dominic, and I'm glad to have you with us on a beautiful Wednesday morning. Maybe it's not beautiful where you are, but it's beautiful somewhere. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. We're going to get in. We got so much to talk about today. I have no idea if we're going to actually get through it all. Let's see. My plan is to go till about midday if everything goes well, which is maybe a couple of hours on my end. A couple of hours to hang out with you. So you are absolutely welcome to ask questions and all of this. I was putting together the description, for the video for this live stream. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Dr. K from Healthy Gamer. And I thought, oh, you know what? I kind of like what he's got going, although I am nowhere near as smart as him, but I kind of love what he's got going with helping gamers. And I suddenly realized, hey, I've walked backwards into this idea of being, like healthy author, or this idea of like, can we help fiction authors? And then my keynote for the last Legend Haven was healing storytellers. So it's like, maybe there's something there, because the world gets harder. Things get stacked more and more against our ability to create, to produce, to be present, to be ourselves. So what do we need to do? Where do we need to go? It's very different in the past, like 100 years ago, 60 years ago, before everything that's kind of grabbing at your time and that's challenging you and calling for your attention. It was maybe easier to write then, and sure, less, a lot fewer people did it. Although I don't know if it's ever truly easy to write. And my mic might be too loud. Let me check this. Hopefully that sounds okay. May have been easier in the past because there was a whole lot less to think about. If you've ever seen the show, it's one of my favorites. All Creatures Great and Small. And it's very chill. It's very calm. Yeah, there's drama and they're busy and stuff, but they are not part of a 24-hour news cycle. Yes, they're in the middle of a world war. But you turn the radio on at like 5 p.m. at the end of the day, right? And it stays very, very focused on, you could say, Hobbit vibes, right? Hobbit level lifestyle. So much healthier and simpler and present. Whereas today, the very instant you get out of a situation, boom, you're on your phone, disassociating actively, like face sucking a Palantir instantly. Couple of weeks ago, I made the call. Like, I'm realizing I'm doing this all the time. I'm just not even here at all. So I cut out, Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. Now, if I need them, I got to pull open a browser, which is annoying, or I use them on my desktop. And now every time I pull it up, it's like, oh, they're not there. Oh, well, okay. And so I start getting a little bit bored, and I start retraining, like, okay, well, where do I turn for interesting things now? Well, the only things left are now Substack and Kindle and YouTube, which are places that I go to for learning. And then there's Netflix, because I like to watch stuff. And I'm realizing I'm not doing any of the things I like to do because I'm addicted to the dopamine of social media. All right, cut that out. See what happens over the holidays. See who I become. Well, major thing is we ended up shipping a ton of updates for our community, for helping authors enjoy the process of writing a lot more, and hopefully they will. And if there are testimonials or anything to listen to that I've got all over the homepage, what they've had to say, they're loving it, and it's working, and they're writing. And so that's what I'm doubling down on this year, is what are the things that we need to do to help authors to heal? And so what do you do? How do you heal so that when the world is stacked against you and everything gets harder, how do you heal? First thing you probably have to do is create some sort of boundaries, create some sense of self-identity, something like, who are you, right? Get a sense of who you are, what you won't do. And this has been my advice from day one when it comes to writing a story or anything. Don't write for them. Don't write for the parish ladies down the hall or down the road. Don't write for your parents. Don't write for your friends. Don't write for your class. They're not who you're writing for. First, you're probably writing for you, and you're probably then writing for people who are exactly like you and who want the same questions. And those people may not be in your immediate life, or there might be like one or two, but you don't have to justify what you're doing to people who don't really care about what you're doing anyway. So figure out your own sense of boundaries. Heal yourself. That means, you know yourself. That's been one of the super fun things we've been doing. At least I think it's super fun with our Legend Fiction community, is I've been going through a bunch of different personality typing stuff. I think at this point we're clocking in at 3. And I've reimagined them for authors so that authors can like go and take these little quizzes and go, oh, that's me, or that's me. And then I've tried pairing it with a bit of advice. Okay, if this is you, try this. See if it gives you a little more mental freedom, a little more health, or it's like a little exercise that you can try to see if you can figure out your own sense of self. Because when the world gets harder and you can't make as much of an impact on it, then the number one thing that we got to do is, okay, we got to double down on ourselves. We got to heal ourselves. We got to figure ourselves out. So that the very second something opens up where you can act, you're right there because you prepared for it. Whereas in the past, you didn't have to the world was a lot easier to get into, make money, to get active on things, to get job interviews, to get into school, to get a home. I think we have a little bit of a gripe against some of the people that we know and love in our culture who seem to have it easier. And we cannot seem to get ahead even for a hair today. And it's and we're losing jobs right and left, and it's impossible to grow or to get attention. It seems impossible to get sales, for our books. But I'm going to say now is probably one of the most incredible times to be alive, and this is going to be a big focus for just me in general. And because it's what I want to do. Is I don't think I want to get published by a big publisher or something. I want to figure out and have fun with the indie process. And I think a lot of our authors are going to be indie authors in our community and who show up in this channel. We want to figure out marketing for ourselves. We want to figure out how to make the system work for us because they built a system to make it work for them. I love this metaphor of the Romans, right? The Romans built their highways. This is what I've understood. Historians, you can check me. They built their highways to facilitate the ability of their armies to get across the empire in record time, and to be able to supply them probably with baggage trains and food supplies and communication, essential things for maintaining a robust empire that went on to last like what did they last? 1,000 years? Egypt was like 4,000 years or something insane. I can't even remember. Maybe it was 2,000. I don't remember. But Rome, I think, was at least 1,000 years. That only comes from plenty of fast, mobility and communication. Well, the thing is, everybody else, I'm assuming, realized, hey, we can, for maybe a little fee, we can use this to truck our goods across to other towns. And then commerce and trade all of a sudden, I'm going to assume, blows up. And then we outlast them. We outlast that empire. Because the goal of empire is to preserve empire. And the goal, and they'll sacrifice anybody who comes in their way to that obstructs that. And the goal of us is, well, we want us. Our priority is us, our community, our people, living a good life, doing good things, having good food, creating a bit of personal freedom, creating the ability to help each other. And there's zero guarantee that empire does that. And so now today, fast forward, we have all kinds of good people in government, bad people in government, good motivations, bad motivations, whatever. And they're shipping tools and they're creating or they're gating stuff. But I think we look at it, and in the long run, man, there is a fantastic chance for the common guy and gal. There's a chance for us to get a bit of winning in. And that's one reason why I love tech and I love tools, because tech is it's an extension of your ability to do something. And so when we think that, and it is, life gets really hard around us, it's because we're trying to play with the game rules from a while ago. And the world has changed while we're still trying to play that game. So if we now can learn to adapt and play this game, and that's what I want to figure out how to do over the year into the future with this channel, is how do we encourage and empower indie authors to create their own freedom? And I think that's exciting. So find your sense of self and create your own, author career on your own terms, and then create the habits and the systems to keep writing. That just seems like a cool recipe for success where you don't have to wait for permission from anybody. And I don't like to get permission from anybody. I'm going to do what I want to do, especially if I'm convinced it's good for people and if I think I'm right. And until my mind is changed, I'm going to keep doing it. So I've got a bunch of articles and stuff that I want to get through, links people have sent me going, hey, you need to look at this. This is really cool. It's like 2026 roundup. So we're going to get into all of that. I need to actually check and see if my co-host plans to join later on, because if she does, then I'm going to save some of the news till a little bit later. And let's see. Hey there, are you planning on jumping on? So for those who are just joining us, hello there. It is nice to see you. If you got any sort of questions on anything, don't ask me if a Jedi can cut through Superman, because I tried that one last week and I think I totally bombed that. But if you got any other questions, I am happy to chat with you about them. Love to see what I can do. All right. So I've got, like I said, I've got a bunch of stuff that we can talk through. I've got a bunch of mental floss for authors from polling the legend fiction community, talking about writing habits. So I think that'll be really cool to get through. We've got stuff about Barnes and Noble that looks like it's incredibly cool. Why are we paying attention to Barnes and Noble at all? Well, it's because it's a metric of what the culture's doing as far as book sales. And I think that can be encouraging for us as authors. So the thing that I learned was that Barnes & Noble is opening, 60 new bookstores, I think, around the United States today. And what does that mean for authors? I don't know. I want to screen share that article and we can have a look at that together. Let's see. I want to switch off. This thing's going to give me a problem for ad block. How can I disable this for right now? Options. Let me disable ad blocker. Sign in. Hold on. Let me pin this so I can turn it off. All right. This website, turn off and refresh. Okay. So I'm going to get through all of that. Let's see what else. Probably I'm not going to do live editing today, but let's go back to that. Are you going to let me read this article at all? Ad block is annoying. I'll come back to it. Probably won't do any live editing today. What I want to do are two other things. So I've got a ton of articles I want to get through. I've got two things I want to read aloud. So if nobody has any questions, I'm just going to get into reading stuff aloud that I think is interesting and helpful, because I'm going to then clip them and share them as videos for the rest of the channel. So first thing that I'm going to go through, man, I'm letting my coffee get cold. Hold on. Let's finish with the coffee. Okay. Let's focus on the coffee. Are you drinking anything? Say hi in the comments if you're drinking anything. If it is I don't know, it's hump day, right? It's Wednesday. Are you having a good day? What kind of day are you having? Tell me. Tomorrow I'm going back over to my dentist, get a little bit of a post-op evaluation. So hopefully that goes well, and I'm healing up. I had my a tooth taken out last week, so I'm live streaming today instead of tomorrow. And the coffee's cold. Oh well. Are you drinking anything? Are you at work? Are you at home? Don't answer that. That sounded weird. You're sitting out at the park under a tree and there's squirrels, dropping bits of bark on you. What's happening with life? As you can see, I'm in my office, not doing too much. Got a nice little red feather for Christmas. Yeah. And that, I think, is just the coolest. I think it's an astrolabe compass thing. Super cool. I love those. All right, well, coffee's cold anyway. Might as well just keep going. So first thing I want to share with you, I wrote a book last year. It's called, okay, tell me, chat, is this backwards? It's showing up backwards for me. Are you seeing that the right way around? Let me know, if you will. Let me know in the chat if that's showing up okay. I can't really tell if that's backwards or not, because I'm 99% sure if I go and change it so it looks right for me, it's going to flip it actually backwards again, which is annoying. Now just pull that up there for a second. So is that backwards or not? I'm going to hope or assume that it isn't, that it's okay, because this thing is routinely a thing. So it's a book called A Guide to on Fairy Stories. And the idea was it is backwards. Thanks, Victor. So that's annoying. Let me do that. If I flip that over, okay. There we go. That looks, well, it looks like it's straight up for me. I need to make sure that it stays this way now. Okay, so I wrote a book maybe 6 months ago, where I had gathered with a couple of friends here on the Legend Fiction channel, and we had talked about Tolkien's manifesto on fairy stories. And I thought it was one of the coolest things that I'd ever read. I'd read it as a teen, read it so many times, highlighted it to death. And so we gathered together and we read it about, I don't know, I think it's over 5 sessions, about 5 hours of conversations with Legend Fiction friends. And hey, Masquerado, I know you're a community member. Good to see you. I can't remember your name in the community though, which is probably how you want it anyway. So yeah, I went through Tolkien's document, and then I went through the conversations, the transcripts that we went through for our conversations here on the channel, and I thought this could be a really cool series of videos. Well, first, let me script them all out. Let me figure out what I want to say. And then I did all of that, and then I just never turned them into videos. So I figure I'm going to share it with you, and then I'll clip it out afterwards. So there you go. If you have read On Fairy Stories ever, it's called A Guide to On Fairy Stories, Tolkien, Storycraft, and the Deep Purpose of Fantasy Fiction by yours truly. And again, if you have read the thing, you know he talks about a green sun, which I thought was pretty cool to include. Don't check me on the fact that there's actually another sun actually shining. It doesn't matter. It just looks cool. All right. I'm going to go through. Let's see. And this book is totally free. Is it totally free to download? I think it will be. I'm going to make it totally free to download. It's also available on Kindle. I think you can get it like really, really cheap and stuff. So what we've got is we've got a short kind of reflection on an idea about these fairy tales, what he's talking about. And then there's a prompt at the end, or there's a writing challenge for writers. So hopefully it's something really helpful. I think people are going to enjoy it. I know I did. So let's christen this thing with some coffee. Tuck my keyboard away so I don't spill on anything. I'm just going to put that up there so I don't knock it with my hand. I don't have Italian in me, but I like to wave my hands. Okay, what's a good way to do this so I don't... All right, so you can sort of see the book. All right. On Fairy Stories, this is why Tolkien didn't believe fairy tales are for children, and neither should you. So, you know, it's kind of wild how often we still assume fairy tales are just for kids. If you tell someone that you write fantasy or fairy tales, there's this quiet moment, you know, where they smile politely. Ooh, we've got a friend here in the chat. Steve. Hi, Steve. You got the Fairy Stories book in the goodie bag. Ooh, I hope you enjoyed it. I'm gonna take it from the top, but I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I'd love to know what you think, and I hope that it was helpful, gave you something to chew on. So let me take this one from the top. So we're reading, this is from, On Fairy Stories. This is why Tolkien didn't believe fairy tales are for children, and neither should you. You know, it's kind of wild how often we still assume that fairy tales are for kids. And if you tell someone that you write fantasy or fairy stories, there's this sort of quiet moment where they like smile politely, like you're still clinging on to some childhood phase that you forgot to grow out of. But Tolkien didn't think that fairy tales are actually for children. And I think a lot of us are missing something really important if we think that was ever the point of what he's writing. Century ago, Tolkien wrote his essay on fairy stories as a way to clear the air. There was confusion even back then about what counted as fantasy or a fairy tale and what it was for. Most people then and now we toss everything with talking animals and sparkly magic into one big category called for children. And then we tuck it away in the attic like a box of old toys. Tolkien wasn't having any of it. He basically walked into the room, raised his hand, and he said, "These stories matter, and I'm going to tell you why. It's because it is not about fairies." One of the first things he points out is that fairy stories aren't about fairies. Not usually, at least not the way that most of us think about them. They're about entering into another kind of world entirely, the perilous realm, as he calls it. Actually, it turns out afterwards I was wrong. He doesn't actually call it that. That's what the Arthurian realm, or Arthurians called it. But anyhow, close enough. He loved that too. It's a world where the laws of our own reality are bent, but not broken, where wonder and danger live side by side, and more importantly, where we come away from that experience changed. Modern culture, especially our post-industrial mindset, we tend to file fantasy under escapism and we see it as distraction. Big topic for him. We're going to come back to that another time. We see fantasy as like it's a soft pillow for fragile minds who can't handle the harshness and the difficulty of actual reality, right? But Tolkien flips that completely. He says, no, the real escapism is pretending that this world is all there is, pretending there is nothing more beyond the concrete and the rational and the transactional. Fantasy doesn't take us out of reality, it brings it back to us. The fuller experience of what reality is, sharper, clearer, and maybe even healed. There's a part in the essay where Tolkien talks about how people take all magical, strange, dreamlike stories and we lump them together in a basket marked unreal. And from there, we just hand them off to children. Stories that are truly good don't stay in the nursery. They grow with you, they unfold, they haunt, they challenge. Think about Beauty and the Beast, right? It's not just a kid's story, it's a lifelong meditation on love, on trust, and on change in impossible circumstances. Literally being caged with a beast, right? It's a lot more than just, oh, men are bad. No, there's a lot more to it than that. So Tolkien makes the case fairy stories are for everyone because they deal with the stuff that matters, like joy, death, evil, courage, recovery, and hope. And he wasn't talking about symbolism or allegory either. He's talking about real things being shown through strange light, through a new way of looking at things. Stories that don't just talk about truth, but help us taste it, feel it, and suffer with it. Fairy tales are not escapes from reality, they are rehearsals for it. The best fairy tales aren't written to deliver a lesson, they aren't vehicles for morals, they don't carry messages like freight in a freight car, like a Trojan horse trying to like get something good inside you. They just simply are. And then you can extract from them, depending on the stage of your life, you extract from them the things that are most meaningful to you. Because fairy tales, especially the ones that endure, there are a lot of them. We discover a lot more. I think I just learned the other day that there's like a treasure trove of like 400 new fairy tales that have emerged. The thing is, the ones that endure across time, across culture, across multiple peoples, you then have to sit back and go, there's a reason why these things endure. There's something common to the human experience across all of them. Because they're true in themselves, they change us. So here's a challenge for writers. I think it can be a serious one because it means we're not just always playing around. We're not always building cute little playgrounds in our minds. And sometimes we are, and that can be good too. But there's also something deeper going on. We're trailblazing paths into deeper places, into real questions. And it does call for reverence. Not self importance, but reverence, a kind of honesty about what we're doing. So if you write fantasy or fairy tales or stories with wonder and beauty and grief braided together, then you're doing something very ancient and very human. So don't brush it off or let anybody else brush it off for you. You're not hiding from the world. You might be seeing it more clearly than most. And if you feel like your work doesn't belong in the canon of classical literature or that your ideas are too simple or weird or magical to matter, I think remember this: Tolkien opened the door for us. And what he left behind wasn't a set of instructions, it was a rallying cry. Don't write to escape, write to reveal. Don't lecture people, enchant them. I think fairy stories are for everyone. So if that was interesting to you, drop a like, subscribe. We've got a bunch more. I think I've written about 9 in this book. There'll be afterwards. I'll put a link in the description. You can go check it out, and you can grab a copy. And I hope that you enjoy it and gives you new things to think about. So, if you got any questions about any of that, drop it in the comments. Cannot wait to hear from you. We're going to be here for a little bit, going through all sorts of really cool stuff. Okay. Now, I've got a second book. I know I'm a total nerd. I write books. It's what you expect from an author, right? Now, what I don't have here is a novel that I've written. I'm working on that. I'm hoping by next week, what I can do is get a editing document up, and then I'm going to live edit through some of my books and stories because I am just not doing it. I need to create a new habit of editing. And so I figured editing is a really, really helpful way to see how an author works. And so I'm going to do it live, probably starting next week. Pick a story and just rip it apart or breeze through it really quickly, see what comes to my mind. It's usually what I'll do is I'll draft a story, ship it to like my legend fiction community, see if I get any feedback, and then just not look back at it again and just keep running. Actually, that's something that occurred to me the other day. It's like a tip when you're writing stories. I don't know if this is like you. Tell me if this is like you. Tell me where you're at. If are you writing a book right now? Drop a one. Put a number one in the chat. If you're trying to write a novel or something right now, Victor says he's writing an epic Christian fantasy, pitching it as Game of Thrones meets the Book of Acts. That sounds pretty awesome. He says, I have zero expectations that it'll ever sell enough to even pay for the software I use to write it. I don't know, bro. Like, have you seen the number of really good Christian, um, stuff created by Christians that is just taking off? And I don't just mean God's not dead too, but like House of David, I think I need to watch it, but it looks like it's done really well. The Pendragon cycle, it's like overtly, unabashedly, Christian coded, I think, or sort of rooted in that. Um, we might be seeing a turnaround, but story perfectly okay with that outcome. I'm writing it because it's a story I'm compelled to write. I hope you do. That sounds cool. And maybe DM me or hit me up sometime. I'd love to see where you go with that. Um, so one thing that struck me the other day, I was recording a class for the Legend Fiction School with Gabby Battel, who plans to join us later on. And I was writing or recording a class, and then I took my own novel and I had her try to help me tear it apart. What am I not doing with my opening chapter? It wasn't working, and I was taking some notes. It's actually, yeah, it's literally these notes right here. I was taking some notes while we were talking about how to try to improve that opening chapter. And suddenly I realized, oh, it's been a year since I've looked at that novel. It's been a year since I've worked with that character. Um, all of a sudden, I felt like, wow, I can now be objective about who that character is because I've literally got some distance on it. A year ago, when I was inside the novel trying to write it, it felt almost impossibly hard to get the character together. And I kept delaying, and I literally delayed writing the climax for like a whole year because I didn't know. I was afraid to get into it. I couldn't believe I was at the end of the book, maybe. Um, and life also changed, and I needed time to sort of process the change, and I just took way too long or whatever. I didn't have a good system or a habit, for writing. I let all that lapse, and so I wanted to get back into it. And then I finally did, and I wrote that final chapter, and it's now done. Now I got to go through and edit the book and try to share it. But what I also noticed is that in the interim, I've spent a lot more time messing around with a whole bunch of other characters. And it very well could be that when you're sitting in one novel and you're obsessing over this one character for like 6 months, right? 8 months, maybe you've been doing it for 10 years. It can be really hard, I think, to be able to get like a sense of perspective on the character. Excuse me, because you're in it for so long. Now, this may not be your writing style. It may just be the way that my mind works because I'm half nuts and I've got ADD and whatever, and I love creating everything constantly. But what I find is that when I go really hard on the story in a novel, I will do it almost to the exclusion of being able to think of anything else. And then what I've noticed is when stuff doesn't work, I'm now adding scenes and adding character elements and stuff like that to try to make the character make sense. And it's just stuff. Now it's struggling. Now it's not working. After a year, I can now look back and realize I know why I was struggling. It's because I wanted specific outcomes. And the character that I intuited did not want those outcomes, is her own kind of person. That's why we create them. So getting um, a year's distance, I can now begin to see I was trying to stuff too much into my character. I wanted the growth arc to be too large. I wanted there to be too much, I don't know, emotional nuance or too much whatever. The instant that I go and I create another character in another book, it's like the pressure comes way off of this character, and I can now start doing stuff with this other character, which means when I come back to the character that wasn't working, all of a sudden it works because I'm not bogging them down with everything I wanted them to do. And I'm sure that just comes with experience as well. And I'm just saying, hey, maybe I'm starting to learn that. That's the second time where that became obvious to me I'd done this with my main character. I'd overweighted them down with too much. So, what's the advice? What's the thinking here? Consider if you've got one major project you're working on right now, consider messing around or sketching with another story on the side. If you're a fantasy author worth anybody's stripe, you've probably got 10 novels that you want to write, and they're all sequels to something that you did when you were a teen or whatever. Um, Allow yourself, I think, if you allow yourself to have multiple like little projects that might just be fun on the back end, you take pressure off of needing your main big story to be absolutely perfect. Now, you might be a much better author than I am, and um, you might be a way better author than I am and have a much better sense of either discipline or working with the craft of how to keep an author on the rails. So Victor says here, my struggle is caring about the marketplace and writing towards fitting into a sellable demo. I don't ever want to do that, but it feels almost every video and article is about targeting markets. Yeah, that is tough, man. Steven says, I have an eye on expand. Oh, Steven said, I've written a few published comics and graphic novels, very concerned about the current state of children's literacy and the lack of current books aimed at boys. 100%, Steven. I think that is true. It's a problem. And we do need to fix this. We do need to be part of fixing this. So I want to go back to something that, Victor was saying. Feels every video and article is about targeting markets. Hey, if you've got any thoughts about how are you navigating that? How are you making sense of that, right? Because there is a lot of advice, and I'm not completely convinced. If you're an author who is in this for serious reasons, for reasons of meaning, it doesn't make sense to me that you're going to write to market exclusively. You're going to write to meaning first, and then maybe there's like a Venn diagram, also find what market is it going to fit into. But if you're really convicted or convinced of something, if something is really seriously mattering to you, you're not going to want to cut all that out to bow to the demands of a market, much less a printer. And so Steve has an eye on expanding his story. This is your comics and graphic novels and submitting them to Raconteur Press. Raconteur Press is awesome. Really is. Victor says, at the same time, I want to make sure my potential audience, if there is one, is able to find it. It's such a fragmented marketplace. You know what? Absolutely true. There's, I might get to this later. There's an article that I read about, about being an indie author. I might just come back to it later, maybe with Gabby anyway, but I'm going to see if I can pull it up here. Let me see if I can screen share this real quick. How do I do this here? Hold on. I love this little quote. Could read it aloud, but it's just actually nicer to kind of screen share. Let me do screen window. This one, I shared it on my Substack. I think you can see that there. Let me know if you can see that, if that comes through clearly. There you go. I liked this quote. It says, you cannot thrive as an indie while waiting to be accepted by the machine. The posture is self-defeating. You'll make branding decisions that serve neither goal. You'll pull punches to stay palatable. And worst of all, you'll build an audience you don't actually want, full of people who will abandon you the moment you say something unapproved. It's such an impossible catch-22. So this is one reason why I am incredibly interested in the ability and how we can be indie authors, because we now have new tech. We now have new tech that helps us do all kinds of new things. Victor says, I'm convicted about writing my story. It's such a long trek. It's hard maintaining that commitment to the story over selling. Are you meaning for you, like, for you, the story is such a long process that you're losing steam, or you're losing the motivation or the interest to stay with it? Or are you concerned that somebody can't, it's like going to be such a long series of books? Is it such a long series of books that people can't get through it? I'm not totally sure I understand. Steve says, that sounds like no nonsense, Kristen. Well, there you go. You probably recognize her, especially. I'm sure she's from the Raconteur Press. I don't know. Maybe she's in part of the Raconteur Press community. I'm still trying to figure it out. Kristen McTiernan. So yeah, you're probably right. So anyhow, I thought that was such a great one. Victor says it's difficult to maintain momentum. Let me stop sharing here. And stop sharing. Yeah, it's difficult to maintain momentum. I know. I understand, especially when it's a big deal. I've been in writing. I've got a sequel to this novel, and I wrote the novel, and it was incredibly fun, and I love this novel. And I've got a sequel. I had wanted it to be a trilogy, and so I was planning it to be a trilogy, and it wasn't working. And I've got very clear set pieces I wanted to reach, and I wasn't even doing it at all. And this past week, I was thinking, oh, what if I actually didn't do 3? What if I did it 2? Just simply 2 novels. What happens there? And all of a sudden, I started feeling, oh, I could maybe get moving again. I'm not answering your question here or problem, but for me, sometimes changing my expected output all of a sudden opened up new ideas. Maintaining momentum is a thing, right? I do think this is a problem that I'm constantly trying to solve it. I want to literally understand and solve it for myself. If I can do that for me, maybe I can share what works and help other people. You know what I found the other day? I actually was over the holidays. I was messing around with building an app, and it would be like a not a writing streak app, although it does count, track word counts and stuff. I wanted to help authors reframe and pay attention to our lives around our writing so that we could keep writing. And the reason that inspired me was I saw an article. Oops, tip the coffee over. I need a coffee warmer thing. If anybody knows of a good coffee warmer that sits on your desk and keeps your coffee warm without stinking like hot plastic, if you know of one, let me know. Or drink your coffee faster. Okay, fine. I could do that too. Talking is so much more fun though. Victor says, yeah, the Tolkien quote about how for years Lewis was the only person encouraging him and asking him for the next chapter. Isn't that awesome? Isn't that awesome to have a friend like that? Victor says, it comforts me knowing at one point there was only one person who wanted to read Lord of the Rings. Yeah. There's good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for. That's true. Honestly, this is that's a little bit for me. This is why this is also personal for me. It's part of the origin story of this brand that I started years and years ago during the pandemic. I had a website, and I was trying to sell my books on it and stuff, and I didn't know. I was tired of the state of writing communities at the time. I did not know of a community that was doing what I wanted to do or was kind of creating what I wanted to create. I wanted a place that brought about friendship, that had kind editing feedback and a shared culture, of values. And so I went and I made one, partly because I had nobody to share what I was working on with. And so this community has now grown, and that's continued to be one of our major things. We want to be the friendliest writing community ever. We've created the friendliest fiction con. We've got, I'm hoping to create the friendliest live stream, which is what this is. And I'm hoping that this community continues to be the coolest community because it's full of the friendliest people. So I found this article about NASA, and it was breaking down why or how NASA operated. No, actually, it wasn't an article. It was a video about a game developer who wanted to build an absolute kick-ass game, and the way that they went about it was by going back, and they audited and studied how NASA preps their astronauts for success. And they took those mechanics and they worked them into the game to try to create a different experience. See if I can remember some of their talking points, because they were so intriguing. The talking points were like, you focus on where everything breaks down. You don't optimize the successes. It's more important to pay attention to where do the gamers, because astronauts were going to spend like hundreds of hours of boarding hours in space. So then they wanted to target that as a problem. What do you do when you're bored? Not how do you keep the high dopamine, kill streaks going? How do you stay functional and goal-oriented and creative? And how do you create your own anything out of yourself when everything dies and goes away around you? how do you build up a person to be the kind of person who can still thrive even in that environment? Because it's maybe easier to feel like when you're in the flow, when you've got your kill streak going and things are binging at you and it's very intense and you can eliminate all focus and dial in on just the thing that you're doing. You can try to optimize that and make it longer and introduce sort of little breaks and, I don't know, higher penalties or higher values or rewards or something. But then not everybody can play that kind of game long term. Case in point being astronauts in space, hundreds of hours doing nothing. But I don't know what they do up there. I'm sure they're probably watching stuff or staring at planet Earth or just, having epiphanies. So they created training programs to focus on what do you do when everything breaks down. And I thought that sounds absolutely riveting. What if we could create an app that did that? And I started messing with it. I don't know if I'm going to continue with it because it's expensive. I need to see if anybody wants it. But the idea was, what if you could track? I know this is going somewhere, Victor. If you, I'm curious to see what you think. But before you even pony up to the writing desk and sit down to start writing, your previous day will kind of determine how easy it is or how good a time you're going to have, in my opinion. And one of those is going to be your sleep cycle, your sleep habits. Are you sleeping at the right time? Are you trying to write at the right time? So knowing yourself, are you eating the right kind of diet? Although I'm not going to get into dieting. Do you have a sense of any exercise that you're getting? Do you have a sense of what time of day, how long you write for? And so every day you do your writing and then you pull up this mini sort of questionnaire and you go, bup, 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 this was today, and you sort of track that. And the beauty is after 30 days, it gives you all these beautiful little charts and it shows you, well, you wrote at this time most days and you did this much word count and you slept at this time or you were awake at this time. And so you wrote more words at this time of day when you punched in versus this other time of day. And so it then looks at all the stuff that you're putting in. Hopefully it's like a simple, fun sort of process to track it. And then it tells you based on how you have interacted, these are the times of day that work best for you. These are the writing habits that we might recommend for someone like you, for your personality type, because you take a little personality quiz. Try doing this, right? So it's trying to create more of a holistic thing around you. Want to be a writer? Okay. What are all the things around it that help you accomplish that goal? Because the number one thing that we cannot rely on is motivation. Motivation will go away the instant you have an argument with your family, you have a bad day, bad news comes up, motivation dies. Motivation is not the thing to keep you going. And so it's pretty crushing when we try to rely on that. You can't juice yourself up. Maybe you can. I can't. I can't juice myself up. I can't make myself be motivated. So what do? Especially when you want to get a job done? Well, you build systems. Systems are habits. And then you stack them. You stack your habits. If you can do that, if you can create the triggers, create the things that tee you up and that set you off so that as soon as you see them or do them or when you show up, you're just ready to go. Now the thing is, okay, so that's how habits work. I love this example of Olympic runners. If they're in the bleachers and they're not even down on the track, the instant the gun goes off, they always do this. If you've ever noticed that, they're walking down, they hear the gun go off, the starting gun, whatever, you'll see them walking around, sitting down, they'll instantly go like that, right? What are they doing? It's like a nervous tick or something? No, it's very intentional. They are training their bodies. It's a psychosomatic thing, whatever. They're training their bodies every single time that sound goes off. There is no question. There is no thought about whether I'm committing to this. I'm in. I'm done. I'm already in the middle of the thing and I'm doing it. The moment you slow down to think about what you're doing is the moment that you can get derailed. And they don't even want that, especially in a high intensity situation like a race. And so I'm thinking, how do we apply that for authors? Now, it's also true, not only creating a nice environment, creating a nice sequence of events, like a little ritual, a writing habits. It is literally also a matter of paying attention to yourself and where you need to be. Did you eat enough? Are you eating enough of the right kind of things? Are you getting enough sleep? If you literally aren't sleeping well, you're not going to be having a great time writing. You're getting enough sleep. Are you getting enough exercise? Even a 15-minute walk around the block, and then you will sleep better. Every day, you're always setting up your next day. The person who is thanking you for having a great writing session is you thanking yesterday, because it's a cycle thing. The food you eat today, the sleep you get today, the exercise you get today tees you up to have a greater day, or a better day, or a more consistent day tomorrow. So, yes, it's difficult to maintain momentum, like Victor was saying. When you're writing a really massive, big story, maybe consider giving yourself little prizes. Consider rewarding yourself. And find a friend. Find a friend. I hope and think I mean, I plan and I hope that it works, that this is what I'm doing with Legend Fiction, that we can create a place where you can make friends. And I think people are finding them. We've just launched a tournament as well, which is another little way to make friends, where you gather like 4 authors together, and then you make a little squad or a team, and then you compete with your word counts to see who can write the most each month, and then you earn a badge, and then you fight to keep that badge. It's a little bit of window dressing, or a little bit of sort of fun laid on top of a check-in and a friendship mechanic built around showing up. And you're showing up not just for you, you're also showing up for a couple of people. And if you're sharing word counts, you're probably also, you can create your own little 4-way chat inside Legend Fiction, and you can just chat together like a chat thread, text thread, and you stay in touch with each other and you build each other up. That's another little way to help with motivation, right? So, okay, I'm going to transition over to reading from the other book. So we did on fairy stories earlier, and we're going to get to, I don't know how many tabs I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have way too many news tabs to get through, so I'm going to see what I can do about that. But we might come back to those. Gabby says she plans on joining us 11:30, so in about an hour. I might just simply start with some of the news then, and just chat about it. Indie news, author stuff. I need a fresh cup of coffee. Okay, so I wrote this other book, Start Your Saga Brand. And one of the things I've been wanting to do is simply share what is in this book, because this is 10 years worth of my experience. I didn't know how to market and sell my own book. This is literally how my marketing career started. I did not know how to market and sell my own novel, and I'd written a children's novel. It's one of the things I actually want to edit live on this channel as soon as I can get to it. So I spent about 10 years trying to understand marketing, and that led to branding, and then that led to building websites, and that led to learning how to create a community, and it learned to like all kinds of other things, because I start pulling on a thread and my ADD brain is like, oh, that's cool, that's cool, that's cool. Oh, this is all connected, And what I then learned is creating a brand, either as an author or a business, is telling a story. And that's when I learned that all of my love and interest in storytelling can be translated over into building a brand. Now, you can absolutely argue if I figured it out, well or not, but there it is. It's a book. I wrote it, and I'm not sharing with anybody. I need to share it. I need to give it away. It's available. I'm trying to remember if I've actually given it away for free. I think it's linked on my sagabrand.co website. But I think that what's in here is also going to be helpful for authors, because a lot of authors have no idea how to market, and we absolutely hate it. This stupid stuff that we poor authors get up to, doing our level best to sell our books. But of course, none of us have marketing degrees. Now, I don't have marketing degrees, but I have a marketing decade. So here's what I'm thinking. If you want to skip a decade worth of trial and error, we can just simply go through this. And then I'm going to take these chapters and put them over on my Saga Brand channel. But maybe this can be interesting and helpful. So here's here's the book, Start Your Saga Brand. And the subtitle is The Relentlessly Helpful Guide for Total Beginners and Visionary Founders, like an author, to build a brand with no permission, no budget, and no limits in 100 days. All right, let me find the right chapter here, and I will be All right. Thanks for the one viewer who's still hanging out. Nice to have you with us. I've got, let's see, I've shared two first chapters of this over on the other one, the other channel, Saga Brand channel. I'm going to skip the case study because you can just get that in the book if you want. Pretty sure I read that chapter. Hold on, give me a sec. Let me get the right chapter here. I think this is actually kind of helpful probably for authors too. All right, last chug. Please don't let your coffee go cold. If you're drinking that thing, drink it. So it's chapter number 5. This is why no one cares about you yet. And maybe that's a good thing. So what we're going to do is share a little bit about what I think. You know what? Yeah, all right, we'll just get through this. So let's get one thing clear, right? When it comes to starting a brand, whether you're like an author or well, anything, like you're trying to sell stuff online or in person, like you're starting up a little business, anything, no one is waiting for you. Nobody's checking their phone hoping today is the day you finally post something. Now, the only people who are doing that are your diehard fans, but you don't get those until later if you're still starting at the beginning. Hey, Victor. Oh, you know what? That is really cool. Why, thank you very much. He says, I can confirm the marketing and branding for Legend Fiction works. It would grab my attention, keeps me checking in. I'm really glad to hear that. Thank you. That's very kind. This is my playbook. And I'm hoping that by sharing it, I can also sort of remind myself about what I think works, and hopefully it can be helpful for other people as well. Okay, so nobody's checking their phone. Let me start again from the top because I want to clip this afterwards. So why no one cares about you yet? Let's get one thing clear. Nobody is waiting for you. Nobody's checking their phone hoping that today is the day that you post something. Nobody's staying up at night wondering when you'll launch your brand. You're invisible. Now, if that stings, good, because it means you're finally seeing the problem for what it is. You're not entitled to attention. You have to earn it. At some point, you told yourself that you had started. You wrote a mission statement. You bought a website domain, right? You made an Instagram page, maybe even a logo. If you're like me, you do all of these things like 100 times. For a while, it feels like progress. And then the world, shrugs, and then the doubt sets in. Maybe you start consuming content again. You're trying to learn, okay, what's the right way to do stuff? And that's when then you hit the next wall, which is conflicting advice. Oh, they say websites are dead, or they say if you don't have a website, you're not serious, or post 3 times a day. And then somebody else says, don't post at all, just build relationships. And then somebody else will say, personal brand is everything. Or somebody else says, your business should stand on its own. And like, who's right? Who do you listen to? If you've done any messing around in marketing, it's agonizing. Who do you listen to? The truth? I think the truth is most of them are selling you a version of success that did work for them. Their path is not your path. You don't need another guru's system. You need something designed for who you are, for where you are, and what you're actually trying to do. Nobody cares till you make them care. The reason no one is listening isn't because you're not good enough. It's just because you haven't given them a reason to care. Not because you don't deserve it. It's not because you're not talented. It's because attention is a currency and you haven't made the exchange worth it yet. Every person that you want to reach is already drowning in noise. I mean, I mentioned earlier about quitting social for like 2 weeks and then all of a sudden discovering my ability to create again, right? Everybody's like this. People don't care about they don't care about like you personally. Your friends do. Maybe your friends care about you. Your immediate family does. But general people out there, they don't care about me. They don't care about you. They care about what you can do for them. And then they will give you money if you can help make that happen faster, right? Everybody's attention is being fought over by ads and influencers and deadlines, family, news, and my gosh, 10,000 notifications a day. In the middle of that, you're trying to post content and you're hoping someone happens to stop scrolling and then decide that you're worth paying attention to. Well, that might be a losing strategy. Attention doesn't happen by accident. It's built on purpose. And so that's why this book here, it's It's not just designed to make you feel like you're making progress. It's a system of serious steps designed to pull ideas out of your head, onto paper, into DMs, and out into the real world where stuff actually happens. That's why every chapter ends with an action item in this book. Action items that I've taken myself over and over again. I don't think you need another self help book telling you that you can be a good person or you are a good person. You probably already are. I think you need a system that forces you to execute. What are decisions that you can ship? I think if you follow this process, you won't just think about building authority, you'll be doing it daily in a way that actually gets you noticed. Cool. Okay. That was pretty short. Let me go back and look at. I'm going to go through chapter 6 because we're all just hanging out together. All right. Let me check some. And welcome back to the show. Dog needed to go out to the bathroom. So thanks for waiting. Yeah, I need fresh coffee. Okay, I just want to get through chapter 6, and then we're going to probably start in on the news, I'm guessing. Got a bunch of news items that are going to be fun to talk about. Okay, I want to talk about 99% of ideas die before they ever become brands. And here's why. Most people never build a brand, right? They talk about it, they dream about it, and they overthink it. That's why 100 days from now, assuming if you're plugging through this book, most people reading this will still be invisible. They won't have traction, they won't have an audience, they won't have influence. And so the question is, are you going to be one of them? If you want to be seen, heard, and recognized as a leader in your space, or if you're a creator or an author, somebody standing out, earning the attention of other people, you need a system. It's not about motivation. I believe, I do. It is a system. And so here's where my genius trademark pending. No, it's not. Saga framework, SAGA framework is where it comes in. It's my battle tested, no BS method to go from nobody to authority brand. Without permission, without a big budget, or without waiting for some mythical right time. You got a cool idea, we're just going to do it and mess around with it and learn. It's not just a branding book, it is a challenge to change. And I'm going to get to some of the comments in a minute here because they look pretty cool. This book might change more than just your brand. Let me be honest. I think that if you take this seriously, the book won't just change how you build a brand, it will change how you see yourself. Honestly, what you're reading here is my own personal journey through trying to become a better human being. I think you'll stop waiting for someone to discover you, and you'll start proving why you deserve attention. You'll stop overthinking, you'll start executing daily, and you'll stop consuming and start creating. And maybe you'll create in the way that works for you, not just the way that some checklist online says, oh, you need to create all of this stuff. Branding isn't just about getting noticed. It's about stepping into the role of a leader, a builder, and a storyteller. If you're going through the book, it's a 100-day test of your vision, your grit, and your ability to execute, just to get stuff done. I do believe a lot of branding advice is a mess of vague ideas, especially if, and I'm so sorry on behalf of a lot of crap marketers everywhere who repurposed a ton of stupid checklists during the early SEO boom and just flooded websites with do this, and they're not actually written by people who know what they're talking about, versus the few who actually create really helpful deep dive sort of stuff. And so I was probably you, going through everything on the first 3 pages of Google when the actual good stuff was buried 10 pages deep, 100 pages deep, because they didn't know how to build a good website. Whereas all of the idiots, who could fast track slop before AI, rose to the top. So that's not cream rising to the top. That's other dead stuff. Anyhow, a lot of branding advice is a mess of vague ideas, maybe because it's trending or it just gets you word count. I don't do vague. I do systems that get stuff done, especially because I have ADD. Stuff's got to work. I need to see data. I need to see that stuff works. But I also it needs to be simple enough for me to literally go and do it today, right now, tomorrow, right? Build a few steps and then I can do it. If I can't see it, I'm not even going to start. I'm just not that smart. So Saga, SAGA, right? It's a 4-step system. Story, your brand, isn't a business, it's a movement. If you're literally creating a business, you might need a different book. Your brand is a movement. If people don't get your story in 5 seconds, they may never care. Then action, SA. Action, you don't need money, you don't need permission, you need to show up every day and prove you're worth following. I mean, keeping it human, especially today with all of the stupid AI stuff that's going on. And I say that as somebody who thinks AI can be absolutely fantastic and helpful if you use it right. You can use it to create stuff that's really cool and not slop. And you can just be a total human on your own and not use any tools and create slop anyway. And then comes G, growth. If people aren't engaging, you don't have a brand, yeah, you've got a ghost town. So let's learn to build an audience that actually interacts with you. And I'm hoping building up these live streams is a way for me to prove that I am doing what it says on the tin. And then lastly, adventure. SAGA, story, action, growth, adventure. This isn't a side project. It's a mission, it's a movement, and you're leading it. And it's going to create a ton of fun and a ton of stories. And stories are awesome for resharing. Alex Hormozy is somebody I like to follow. No way I'm going to look as swole as him. And man, he sometimes ships that beard. But he says, simple doesn't mean easy. Easy to understand, hard to do. That's what simple is. If you follow these 4 steps, you'll become known in your space. I'm hoping that by building up legend fiction the way I am, I'm proving and showing that it can work. I can't focus on everything. I've got like 5 brands floating around, but I can only focus on one at a time. So I'm focusing on legend fiction. And I think it's working. I mean, we've been in the space for now a couple of years, but like every year it's a reset point to clarify. This is the same process that I follow when I work with all of my clients. And it doesn't just take a year. It doesn't just take 5 years. In about 100 days or less, you can distill stuff down and do it a whole lot faster. Branding is a game of execution. It's not a game of perfection. Let me guess. I think you may have been waiting to launch your brand because you want to get it right. And if you're like an author, You're probably feeling the same thing too. I want to build a website. I want to get my name out there. I need all of this stuff so I can start selling my books. And then you think about it for so long and you want to get to it and it just never happens. So the bad news is that no one cares how perfect your brand is, especially if they never see it. If you think you need more clarity, well, wrong. You need more action. You think that you need to build a perfect website first? That's probably wrong. You may need to build a following first. You think you need a bigger audience before you start? Wrong. The audience comes because you start. You don't need more time. You need more proof that you actually want this. And that proof can literally be for yourself before anybody else, before you try to convince anybody else. Have you proven to yourself? Do you believe it yourself? That can be the hardest person to win over, because if you believe it, you'll do anything. Even if nobody shows up, you'll still be doing it. I think that's the most important part of all of this. So 100 days will separate you from the quitters. Most people will quit before day 30. It's just reality. We're like, what, 21 days as of this recording into the new year? How many resolutions are just shut up, everybody, right? We quit because we run off of motivation and I don't know, New Year's champagne and stuff, or a keto diet or something. It's just reality. You need a system. System will sustain you when the motivation dies, because motivation dies as soon as you wake up. One day is awesome. The rest of them are crap. It just, you can't rely on motivation. So you got to build a brand that then shows up with consistency, even when no one is watching, because a point will come where they will then land and go, huh, I wonder what else they've done. Then they go have a look and like, oh, this person's shipped a whole ton of proof. This is very interesting, right? Maybe I should pay attention. So 100 days, assuming that, like, if you're going through this book, 100 days from now, you'll either have a brand or you'll have another excuse. I can say this because I totally did this. Start tons of ideas, half build them, drop them. Sometimes it was smart. Sometimes it took me a few days, 100 days to realize I'm building the wrong thing, or I need to take what I learned from this experience and apply it to the next thing, and this thing just needs to die. It's not smart to shackle yourself to, like, what is that fallacy called? Sunk cost fallacy. I've spent so much time building this thing. I can't stop now. I've put so much money into this thing. It's got to work. There's moments where I look at some brands that I've built and I think that and realize maybe they do actually need to die and I need to, like, totally start again. But I get stuck in that fallacy. I've spent so much time building it. And, well, maybe the smart thing is to actually decide, I learned my lessons from this. This was really cool. Made a bunch of new friends. I'm going to shut this down. I'm going to move on. Sometimes it takes 100 days to either figure out if you need to stick with it or to realize it didn't really matter anyway. 100 days from now, people will start to recognize your name, or they won't. And 100 days from now, you will be ahead of 99% of people who wish they had a brand. What is it? It's like 10% of people in North America, or, the United States, are in business or something. It's like some really small 10% are, like, in business, I think, running their own businesses, versus the 90% who consume or who buy from them, which is totally accurate, separation of stuff. The thing is, getting and staying in that 10% is, like, nearly impossible for most. So it's absolutely true. You don't have to always be better than somebody else. Sometimes you just have to outlast them because they won't last. They don't know how. They haven't built up the grit, the 1% more grit that maybe you have. The only difference between success and staying invisible is action. If you do stuff, you start cementing habits. Your stuff starts to become real. So the final question is, are you going to do this or not? Again, if you're taking this challenge in this book, and you can even take this video, because I'm going to clip this afterwards. Take this video. This chapter can be a crossroads moment for you. There's option A, and you close the book, you close the video, and you just keep thinking about it, and you stay in exactly the same place. Or you can go all in for just 100 days, just test it, and finally take your place as a leader in your space. Again, leaders don't ask for permission. Think of any leader. They have never asked for permission. They do it. They might apologize afterwards. They demonstrate that they have what it takes to make something work, and then they just go and do it. And people follow because they're proving they deserve to be out in front, or they deserve to be serving, their community. Your brand isn't going to build itself, and no one is going to come to anoint you with authority. It's on you. It's time to take action. So let's go. Here's the take action. section, you're going to define the dream inside your saga. These are a bunch of quiz questions. Actually, if you go to if you go to sagabrand.co, I've got a button up on the top, which is a free clarity makeover. And you can just fill in a free quiz. There's like a 10-minute video kind of walkthrough, and you can just go through that. And that goes through a bunch of these questions as well. But here are some questions to start asking yourself as you're building a brand as an author, as a creator, small business owner, visionary founder. If you ever hire me, for example, these are the exact questions that I'm going to take you through. And I've been now building, I've got a number on my website. It's like 2,000 or 4,000 projects, several hundred clients, 200 clients, I think, going through these branding calls, building their assets, building their websites and brands and so on. So these are the questions. First of all, define the dream inside your saga. And again, saga means your epic big story. If you're just selling glasses in the mall as a pop-up stand, you're probably not building a saga brand. You're probably building something very small and focused that's serving a very hyper-specific need at a time, and that's it. If you're flipping burgers, right, you're selling food, you may not be trying to build a saga brand, as in something that is a movement. We're here to serve food. People need food. We can make money. Perfect opportunity. As soon as the opportunity dies and disappears, we're going to shut down the business and go to something else. Okay. That's not a saga brand. What I'm trying to define. What I'm trying to define is here's how you build a brand that is a movement. The kind of thing where you believe something so powerfully, you walk into a city, you say, oh, here's a problem that needs fixing. I'm not going to wait for anybody to pay me. I'm going to start doing something right now about it. And in 100 days, we're going to start seeing a difference around here. And then even if nobody cares and nobody shows up to help, I'm still going to keep doing it. And here's how you do it. So the first thing you ask, what's the thing that you're building that if it worked would change your life? Could you define that? And then if you had to make 100K in 100 days with this idea, what would you do first? It might be dancing on the highway with a billboard. It might be going and talking to a specific donor and pitching a very clear idea. But the thing is, just define it. You can change it. But have you even written it down, or is it all in your head? Externalizing it so that you can be able to share it with somebody else is vital. Number 2, pick your ideal customer. Rote marketing advice, I know. But the point is so that you stop wasting time on the wrong people. Who's already spending money on the solution that you want to provide? If they're already spending money on it, that means they want it. That means they're more often than not shopping for multiple options. If nobody's buying the thing that you're trying to ship, or you're trying to sell, might be a problem. That may mean nobody wants it, or it's not a good idea, or you've got a different road ahead of helping people, teaching them to understand why it is that they want what you want. Same thing when it comes to like authors selling fiction. If you're trying to write something close to a couple of genres and you want to be really successful at it, you have a greater chance of that if people can instantly get a sense of, oh, people are already buying romantasy or military sci-fi, right? If people are already buying those things and you go to create in that, there's a good chance people are going to quickly grok it and they're going to want it because you're working in existing frameworks, existing product demand, right? People want it. They want it. Everybody wants chocolate ice cream. Now, if you bring dragon fruit ice cream, like I have never tasted dragon fruit. I have no idea that's going to be a harder sell. So if you, as an author, you try to create a completely new kind of story, you try to deconstruct all the genres and create something completely new and original. If you want to succeed, be prepared for a hard slog, because you're going to have to convince and inspire people in spite of everything they think they know. You're now trying to now teach them, oh, here's something you didn't know you wanted. It's harder work. Can be done, but just be prepared that it's harder work. So as far as picking your ideal customer, what urgent problem do they have that you can fix better than anybody else? Now, again, we're partly talking branding for starting a company or something, but if you're a plumber, and the same if you're an author, you fix sinks, you write fantasy novels. You're exactly the same as every other fantasy novelist out there. You're the same as every other plumber out there. You fix sinks. How do you make that interesting? How do you stand out? You might decide to pick a specific kind of audience. Fantasy readers who absolutely love, I don't know, magical amputees. That was weird. I don't know where that goes. Or fantasy authors who absolutely love reading, I don't know, West Coast, fiction, if that's even a thing, right? So you add one more layer of something on there to clarify and narrow that down and define it. Same thing with like if you're a plumber and if you fix sinks, you might decide I only do marble sinks if that's a thing. And I am the number one guy for doing marble sinks, or I do only chrome plated stuff, and you become known as that guy. Now you need to make sure that in your area there's enough of that to sustain you, because there might not be if you're like you pick the wrong one. But that's the beauty of things. You change if it doesn't work. You keep evolving your brand. And then you show, here's how I do it better than anybody else. Nobody understands the exact sealant that's required to make it work in this environment. If you're a fantasy author, let's say writing West Coast sci-fi, whatever that could mean, you might go, I live on the West Coast. I've spent my whole life immersing myself in this culture. I am the ideal person to write this kind of story. Heroes coming of age and figuring themselves out in the Arizona deserts, whatever. Now you have set yourself up as somebody who is more credible and perhaps more interesting and more unusual than anything else. You are better equipped, and you're proving that. You're showing that. You're describing that by telling people with the story, the book that you're trying to sell. And then lastly, if you could only serve 100 people for the next 12 months, who would they be? Like, that's it. You've only got 100 people that you can serve. Who would you pick? All right, they're the ones who are going to pay you. You can't pick everybody. Working as a designer on my end, I've worked with all kinds of people, and there's a number of people I would never work with again just because we were the wrong fit. Either a personality clash, or they're selling something I'm not interested in, something I didn't want. I may never want to take those jobs on again. Have you even written down at all? My ideal person I want to work with is this. Like, just writing it down does something to you. It stops staying sort of blurry maybe and in your head. Same thing with yourself as an author. The ideal reader for this kind of book it's a YA teen audience struggling with their families, right? Or they are a young millennial who is struggling with fitting into the culture. That theme, we can take that, and that's going to get written a ton of time throughout your books. If you can even define that, that is super helpful, not just for you and for owning the story that you want to tell and being honest about it, but also for helping people who are like that to click into your stuff. Because if they're not that, they won't. And if they're not that, you kind of don't want them coming and buying your stuff anyway because it's the wrong person. And if they're not that, they might go, I know somebody. I know Jane Doe or John Doe, my friend, is that. I could refer that to them. That's the advantage of like Axe body spray. I love this example of Axe body spray. For example, grandma will probably never buy Axe body spray, but she will buy it for her teen grandson, because she knows that is made for him, for that person. So if you can do that, if you can define for yourself who you don't ever want to work with, how do you do that? Try to define who you do. Okay. Next one here. Next prompt is craft your authority story. What's a moment in your life where you had the same problem your audience has now? It's kind of what I've got with LegendFiction or Saga Brand. 10 years ago, I'm sitting at home. I didn't have a job. I had nothing. I had no idea how to provide for myself or my family. I did have a kid on the way. I had never applied for a job before. I tried once at a hotel. And I had reached a point where I was like going to my mother-in-law and saying, I'll do anything. I'll mop floors at the retirement home because I have no idea what or how to. I don't know how to do anything. I know what to do when I'm in a job because I worked for a family business for ages and I got some skills doing that. So I've been where a lot of us are, where we don't know what to do. And then we got to learn. Now I spent 10 years trying to figure that out. So if you want to skip a decade, grab a book like this or come and ask me your questions and we'll just try to figure out stuff together. So how did you solve it? And then what changed? In my case, it can be pay attention when luck comes your way. I think a lot of games we play are luck management games. What do you do with fortune? Good fortune or maybe bad fortune? These are massive life skills I've now come to realize. Some of us get a good hand at cards, get a good hand at dice or whatever, and don't know what to do with it or how to handle it or how to make it go our way or how to hold for a minute until something better comes. These are really valuable life skills, not just in a game. Well, somebody reached out to me with an opportunity and I said yes. And then I ended up figuring it out and making it work. And I got out of not needing to mop floors at a retirement home. And then what changed was the rest of my life. And I started realizing, if I can learn about this other stuff, I can provide more value for my current job and whatever. And then if you had 30 seconds to convince someone to listen to you, what would you say? Have you ever even tried thinking that through? It's going to evolve and change. The LegendFiction pitch evolves and changes. every 3 months, every 4 months, because I'm trying to get closer to what do we actually do? Why do people want it? Who's the right person? And then the more I watch people and watch what they do, go back and tweak it. It's going to change, it's going to evolve, and that's a good thing. Okay, I've got the last 2 sections here, I think. 2, 3. All right. Few prompts. Sell the transformation. You're not just selling, well, I put stuff in sinks. It's like, well, don't just sell that. Sell the destination. Notice a cruise ship never says, you're going to love sitting on our boat. You're going to love that. They never say that. They say, you're going to love the experience of visiting, sailing down the Danube, and you're going to love all of the sights that you're going to see, and you're going to love the entertainment, and you're going to, the literal thing you're doing is it's a butt on a boat on water. Nobody sells that. The literal thing a plumber might do is I grout and get the sink done perfectly, right? It's like, well, okay, you and everybody else. Or if you're an author, you might be like, I put words on a page that help you hallucinate vividly. Nobody sells that. Or just I write fantasy stories where people go to those worlds. Like, yeah, of course, you and everybody else. So what's the transformation? That means, what is the nightmare your customers are dealing with before they work with you? If you're a cruise ship, I have an absolutely boring life and have never experienced the world. Or my sink is overflowing because nothing is going down and I am dying and this thing is pouring out onto my floor. Or it's ruining my under the sink thing and I can't resell a house like this. And if you're an author, what is the nightmare? Gosh, this is where we all get stuck. If you're trying to sell fantasy novels, what is the nightmare that your readers are dealing with? It's not that they don't have enough fantasy novels. There's a lot of them out there. Might be the right kind of fantasy novels for them. And so then you got to ask that question. What do they want out of life? Like for me, I might want high epic or high fantasy psyops just because that fascinates me. My problem is I'm not getting enough of those sorts of stories. It can be that simple, perhaps. So then what's the undeniable money in the bank result that they get after? If you buy my book, you're going to get an absolutely rip-roaring adventure about this and this. And it's going to hit these things that you're interested in. And I love them because this is the kind of person that I am. Here's my experience in writing these things. And it's going to help you maybe learn how to be X or to see how somebody can be this kind of a person. If you're selling a sink, I'm pointing at my sink, it's right over there. If you're selling, like a plumber selling sink stuff, then you might go, you're going to be able to improve the value of your home. You're going to be able to count on your sink. It's going to be able to hold all the water that you want. You're going to be able to count on the fact that you can wash anything you want and the dog and the kitchen sink in your sink. You can count on it. You can believe in it, right? That's what somebody wants in a few sentences, in a line to hear. What am I going to get? If I give you money, what am I going to get? The confidence, the peace of mind, the feeling that my sink is going to work no matter what. Of course, a cruise ship. Wow, you just show photographs. Look at all this gorgeous stuff you're going to see. And of course, you want that because you don't have that. And then the X factor. And this is valuable, I think, for authors. It's valuable for any business. What's your number one unfair advantage that competitors can't copy? Again, sometimes you don't have to be better than everybody else. You do have to outlast them. And sometimes the ability you have to outlast somebody is because you've got an X factor. You've got a super skill or a cheat code for life. And it might be an experience, could be something that you have learned or something you've done or where you've been that that you put into what you're doing that nobody else can copy or do. What's the crazy but true thing about how you get results? It could be speed. You do it faster than anybody else, or you do it better than anybody else. Whatever that thing is. If you've never thought about it, pay attention to it. You just take that question and mull on it for like a week, mull on it for a day. Ask a friend, hey, what's my cheat code to life? What's my unfair advantage? And they might go, dude, how can you not see? You're like X. You're like this. Write that down. Think about it. Own it. And then if you disappeared tomorrow, what would your audience miss most? That one's a fun one. It's good to think about that one sometimes. And then if you get it right, try to own that. I would hope for Legend Fiction, what we would miss if like we shut up shop and died and everything went away tomorrow. What I would hope people would miss was an incredibly friendly community that I've not found anywhere else online. With a lot of the innovation that we put into encouraging and helping people to write, plus trying to teach people how to be positive or how to integrate stuff like AI or tools in a helpful or healthy way without losing themselves, or the fact that you've got a vocation, like what you're doing matters. And then lastly, make your offer so irresistible they'd be crazy to walk away. So again, we've just gone through a list of stuff to think about, how to process and start putting your brand together. What is a painkiller offer that you can charge money for today? Because if somebody has got a migraine or a blinding headache and they can't function or think, okay, it's an elephant sitting on their head. If you show up with a painkiller, you can do, which is an awful thing to do, which is absolutely charge it up because they can't function through life at all without that thing. I don't believe that's ethical. You can market it at an appropriate level that works for you and also works for them, and you get it to them at exactly the right time. Now, trying to figure out something like this with a novel is harder than a lot of other things, but maybe you'll have a cool answer. Can you 10x the value of that without 10x the cost? Right? Most people don't do this. They go, well, here's the default value of this thing, and we're going to charge this. And then what do they do over time? Well, could we charge this? Can we get away with this without changing the value at all? Well, what happens if you go the other route? What happens if you go, here's the base value of the thing that we sell. Here's the price. And then what if you could increase the value? What if you could just keep increasing the value and don't kill yourself? Use systems, use automation, use AI, use whatever to increase the value of what somebody's getting for that. Could you do that instead? Can you imagine the amount of goodwill and good feeling you get when somebody goes, man, look at what I'm getting for just that? How many more people are you going to get? How much more brand loyalty might you get? Now, this doesn't necessarily mean stack everything you've got inside that. There's still practicality, but sometimes it's about how much service, how much tension, how much can you improve the actual product, not just stack more in it, but how much more can you improve that core product, that core thing that you're selling for that same price? So that when somebody comes and gets it, they're kind of overwhelmed by, this is better than I thought it was. And then they might look at it from the outside and go, my gosh, look at everything they're offering for that price. I'd be stupid not to take it. Can you guarantee a win for your customers, even if they fail? Different brands, different businesses, you'll have different answers for that depending on what it is. Okay. If you take all those questions, okay, if you literally take a napkin or take a piece of paper and you answer out as best as you can, as badly as you want, all of those questions, and then you do this next thing. So you're going to open up ChatGPT. You can do this on the totally free plan. You could probably not even have to sign in, although it's nice to have a free account. You take all of the answers, okay, that you've maybe typed up in a Word document, and you literally just like pull up your microphone and say to Chat, hey, Chat, here's my answers to a quiz about my brand. I want you to act like a professional brand strategist and copywriter. Give me a couple of suggestions on how it could be better. Ask me questions if you need more clarity from me. Here are my notes. And then copy and paste all the answers to the questions that we just went through, and then see what it gives you. It's insanely helpful. It could absolutely be transformative for you. And there you go. The first step towards doing anything is clarity. If you've not ever thought it through or written it down, hopefully this can help. All right, let me turn to chat. And Victor says, yeah, heretic. Victor says he's out of here. Well, you're going to love my next chapter. AI can be your ghostwriter. Again, we're talking like business here as opposed to writing fiction, I believe. And I'm going to use AI to help you do stuff. And then actually you do the writing of your chapter. That's what our community is for. Okay, going through some of the really cool comments here. So Victor says it's difficult to maintain momentum in writing. That's like we were talking about earlier. Here we go. So no one cares is the mindset that's been the most beneficial this past year. A lot of things have happened. So disappointment, momentum death, it comes in when I have expectations of telling loved ones, I'm writing a book. I know, I just stopped telling them. I mean, I told them I've got a really cool idea for something, but I don't promise them a deadline because I know that I can't necessarily deliver or ship it. I'm going to do what I can. And yeah, they don't care. They cringe the hardest when I hopefully mention my work in progress. I can see them saying to themselves, please don't ask if I've read your latest chapter. Yeah, I think don't go for family. Don't ask your family, because then for them it's like, especially if you're starting out. Like once you're, what's his name? Once you're Dean Koontz, as soon as you write a novel, your wife stands in the kitchen and cries as she reads through the whole thing. Okay, that's a totally different thing. He's demonstrated, to the general public how epic he can be. And then the family shows up. It's like, oh yeah, this is our guy. He's always been a writer. We're so proud of him. Until you reach that point, I'd recommend don't go there. Yeah, just find a community online that can do that for you. Might be Royal Road, which I've not tested, but I've heard really good things about. So yeah, they don't care. It's rough. He says, yeah, I think, am I looking at Victor's comments here? Victor had a whole bunch of comments while I was reading. Yeah, it's been a long, lonely journey, and I'm sorry it's been rough. It can be incredibly rough. You're not whining. I don't see it's whining or sad. It can be really hard, and I think it's valuable to connect with someone who gets the same sort of experience. He's more excited about his work in progress than anything he's ever done before, and he's committed to giving this the effort and attention it deserves. I think that's fantastic. That is awesome. So now the questions start asking ourselves: what are the systems that are going to help us do that? You can't do everything at once. It can feel impossible to do everything at once. I think this is one major reason why this year I'm working on an author collaboratory. It's like an author marketing mastermind, right? So we've got our base level community, and then we've got creative writing school to teach you to be an author. And then once you've started writing stuff, and at that point you're like, well, I want to sell it and I want to be an indie author. Well, then we've got our indie author marketing mastermind. You know what? That's such a genius title. I'm going to literally write that down. Hold on. Indie author marketing mastermind. I might need to rename what I got the thing. I had called it a collaboratory as a collab laboratory. And Steve saying the friendly part of the Legend Fiction brand is what attracted me. The comic industry is currently pretty toxic, and the indie author space can be hostile to anyone using AI in any capacity. It's true. There's a lot of reasons why, though, right? There's a lot of AI slop, which, okay, we can all agree. Nobody likes slop of any kind. So, yeah, that can all go. But it's also true that modern life and modern creative life is absolutely stacked against anybody being able to get anything done. So, where you can use AI, what that means is a loaded phrase, I know, but where you can use it to help you be creative, to help you keep your creative energy in doing the thing that you're called to do, well, then use it. Use it for your accounting. Use it for calendar planning or for helping you to draft emails a little bit faster so that you can get all of the busy tedium taken care of so that you can focus on what you're good at. So, the comfort of walking in knowing everyone has agreed to be civil has a lot of value. That's 100% how our community, how Legend Fiction works. We've got a cardinal rule: you are kind. We focus on being kind, and in fact, we try to avoid anything negative. It can be pretty awful out there online. So we focus on being a culture of friendliness, of positivity. Now, you're absolutely, as a lot of authors will do this, and they'll go, absolutely want harsh comment. I want strong feedback. Well, then in that case, that's totally different. Most of us don't. We encourage you can DM somebody, more intensive feedback or something, or go with, what is it called? Positivity sandwich. You're doing this thing. I noticed that this area needs a bunch of help, or I totally did not understand, or this, again, I'm still being really nice about this. If you were to go, here's where you're epic, you're amazing as an author, you've definitely got these skills, then here's where this was really weak and this did not land or connect at all. And if you're like any author, the instant you hear something negative, you completely collapse like that grenade in Thor 2, right? Was it The Dark World? And it's like the imploding grenade. So your heart feels like that when you get any negative feedback. So going with praise sandwiches can be really helpful because nobody can hear the tone or the kindliness of your voice. Really good at this. Here's where you need, pay some attention. But again, congrats, and this is really good. So the last thing that they see is also sort of praise. And as Victor says, AI has been the tool that has absolutely turbocharged my writing. It is the greatest tool ever for my process. I'm really glad that's helpful. I think that's fantastic. I think it's important for authors to figure out what works for you. What works for you? Now, I think it's also true, don't bring a chainsaw to an ice pick contest, right? If you're using AI to be hyper creative with stuff, don't enter that into and maybe try to compete with or perhaps make the same kind of money as somebody who does something in a different way. You've created a different product. You've done it a different way. It's like artisan crafted, carvings of like an owl versus 3D printing. they're both cool and valuable, but at different levels of the market and at different price points, and just simply own that. I don't see any problem with it. In our community, if you're actually writing a scene and writing a novel, you write that. That's kind of the point of why our community exists. We write fiction together. So, hey, Austin. Austin just joined the chat. Good to see you. Welcome. Hoping you have a good morning. Got any coffee with you? We've just been through a bunch. I let my coffee get cold, as usual. We went through 2 readings of things. I can't believe it's almost been 2 hours. Um, Austin says, yeah, chat has helped me a ton with my story. It's absolutely been amazing. I've been using it since day one. And if you're like me and if you've got ADD, it's so awesome because I finally have somebody who can keep up with me because I don't have anybody in my family, my immediate family. Otherwise, it's friends online, and they don't have time for the amount of like everywhere that I want to go with like a story. So to be able to like brain dump, okay, chat, here's a bad idea. I'm taking a walk around the neighborhood, right? Here's an idea, blah, blah, blah. All right, organize this. What did I miss? What's wrong? Give me ideas for my character. Like that is insanely valuable. Now, if you don't want to do that, then don't. But for some of the rest of us, super helpful. What are you doing? Fast tracking creative feedback. It's awesome for research. It helps save so much time. If you don't want to do that, then don't. Nobody's forcing you to. And depending on your project, AI can also be a ghostwriter. And that's another conversation. Again, with our community, if you're writing stories to submit for feedback and in the community, then you do that. Now, you could have chat study it for feedback. What did I miss? What, read between the lines and think about what I could have added or what are suggestions to make this chapter better or longer. I think all of that is fantastic use of chat. And then you take those ideas and then you work them into your chapter. What are you doing? You're training yourself to learn to write and to communicate. Kind of the whole point. Now, outside of, let's say, legend fiction, outside of fiction writing, it is an awesome thing to do as a first draft for perhaps a blog post or a business letter. I can't tell you the number of times where I'm like, okay, I need to present something to my boss. Chat, here's my ideas, rewrite it for a type A founder, right? Strip out everything he doesn't want to see and turn it into a 1-page. And then I'll take that, put it in a Google Doc. Okay, now I'm going to write and update it to make sure it says what I want it to say. Super helpful. I don't have an infinity of skills and I can't get trained as a top tier copywriter, but I can now get help to improve. And then by doing this, I learn this, right? Do by learning, which I think is actually one of the best ways that we do learn. Now, just don't outsource your brain completely. And that's where this is a grown-up thing to do. It's a grown-up thing to do, to learn to use tools without losing yourself. So, Victor says, it's my brainstorming partner ready to go at all times. He's always excited to talk about my story. I mean, isn't that just what a time to be alive? It's just pretty awesome. Austin then says, I still write the scene and the chapter and such, but I give it to chat for editing and suggestion on making things clearer or finding better phrasing. I also use it for world building. 100%, I do too. I'm half thinking I might do this at one point and kind of walk through at least my workflow. And I'm curious to know, a little bit more about how you all do it. And that might be a really fun live streamer conversation. But the process that I go through, brainstorming with chat, copying and extracting out and storing it in a document, or like a writing tool, and then I'll generate some art to start inspiring me. I'll go to Pinterest and start creating a Pinterest board and sort of start copying and pasting and putting it all together to start building up the world that I see. It is awesome within a few days, as opposed to weeks, to be able to quickly get a sense of, wow, I can immerse myself in a whole world. Do I want to spend time in it? Or maybe this is all I need to do for now, and then I'll come back to it in the future. This is a theme I want to come back to a bunch, and it is indie authors as production studios. One-man production studio, or one-person production studio. That is such a crazy place to be in, such an incredible time to be in. So yeah. Okay. Victor says, I do 100% of the actual writing. I bristle when anyone on the internet suggests that any use of AI invalidates the writing process completely. And I'm going to add on top of that, because I've used AI so much, I can recognize when anybody uses it. Like they copy and paste it out of chat straight into a blog post and hit send. there's a point I get annoyed and a bit nauseated because I know how chat writes, how chat sounds, the flow of thought and everything. This is more than just like, oh, they use this word and this word. It's like, no, it's more than that. It's the flow of thought. To me, if you are blogging, I'm coming for your voice. I'm coming for your approach. Now, there are ways where you can make chat sound more human, sound less perfectly poetically structured, and that's another conversation. Um, but even if you do have chat outline and then prep or ghostwrite something for you, the magic of signing up to see somebody's blog, for example, is we want to meet you and we want to meet your voice through your thing, you know? So, um, but it's a fantastic tool to use and it can be helpful for people. All right, Austin says, I can say chat works great for world building because it actually has memory across multiple chats. Very true. It can also read other chats, unlike many AI on the market. Fantastic feature. Absolutely. If you've not used it, and I'm very bad at using it and I need to get better at it, there's a folders feature in chat where you go to create a folder. You can describe it as like, this is my world of stuff, or here's a particular project. And then every new chat you create in that project, it'll do some kind of a high level LITE, light sort of indexing of what gets added. And it's a way for it to narrow its focus to all the chats just in that versus someone like me, where it's like, I dump everything into the main area. And then it sort of tries to remember and then it cross bleeds across multiple projects and stuff. I'm late to the game and learning how to use projects can be super, super helpful. Obsidian is fantastic as a world codex, says Victor. I'm really glad that was very helpful for you. I don't use Obsidian anymore, largely because I'm tired of the markup thing. It's a good organizing thing. I'm too chaotic to actually get organized and stay organized, even though I recorded that video ages back because I was trying to figure out that system. Austin says he uses Obsidian because of perhaps that video. If it works for you, that is awesome and fantastic. The tool I'm using these days is called Upnote. And when I get into some live editing in future live streams, I'll probably be using that. But and show you how I'm using that. But gosh, there are so many tools. There are so many tools. I've recorded that one video, 22 writing tools, and I still missed like the other 22 that are out there, if not a lot more. Just whatever you can work with. If you're slower and not slower, if you're more methodical and more organized than I am, because my brain's nuts. Half the reason I don't get anything done is because I've got way too much brainstorming and not enough of any sort of organizing. And I'm just like bookmark, oh, this chat was good. This article was good. This pin is good. And I'm just adding it all to my bookmarks. Then I got 1,000 bookmarks. And then I'm like, I don't even want to write this novel. It's too much organizing, which is awful. Shouldn't be doing that, but whatever. All right. I think Gabby plans the perfect timing. Speak of the angel, devil, and she appears. Hold on. I don't have my headphone in. I'm having way too much fun here with chat. How are you, Gabby?
Doing well, thank you. I'm having a tad bit of a woozy spell, so if I'm a little subdued today, that's why. But I am glad I could still be here.
Me too. I'm glad you could join us. I've been hyping you up for like the last 2 hours. We just covered. Ooh, look at this! I finally got my copy of that.
Oh, it's beautiful.
I think so too. I'm a little bit annoyed. It printed kind of off the bottom, but whatever. It looks epic.
So I didn't even notice till you pulled it out.
Yeah. I love that green sun.
Yeah, I
so
know.
Early in the live stream, I read through just one chapter, the first one, and then I'm going to clip it and make like a nice little playlist series of that. And then I read a chapter from this one here, which I'm going to clip and put over on the Saga brand one. So hopefully it's helpful. Ended up being like kind of a long read through. I had one super epic member. I think it was Victor who hung around the whole time. And as we chatted through that, so hopefully it's something helpful for authors. How are you this morning? Do you drink coffee, by the way? You don't drink coffee, do you?
No, I don't drink coffee.
You a matcha or a green tea or a what do you drink? Anything?
Cider sometimes, but usually that's like once a year on an event. I like it. I love cider, but I just don't have the wherewithal to make it at home. I have a recipe and I'm like, oh, I need to make that, and I still haven't made it. Hot chocolate also. That's a really good option. And then water.
Yeah. Do you put anything special in your hot chocolate? Special family recipes?
Yeah, actually my mom makes it homemade. I don't know the recipe off the top of my head, but I know there's powdered milk in it. I also there's vanilla something I think in it as
Mhm.
well. I'll have to look it up
Okay,
and tell you for next time.
cool. So you don't do like cinnamon or cayenne or cardamom
No,
or stuff
not
like that.
cayenne. I'm pretty sure there's not cinnamon, but there's a decent chance there could also be cinnamon.
Mhm.
Um, nothing like super out of the box.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kinda
Nice.
like classic homey. I should try to do I would put peppermint in it. I would put we have peppermint oil. Maybe I should try that one time, just mix it in there.
You gotta be so careful with that though. It's like
Yeah, I
2
know.
drops in the bottom of the cup blows out and it's way too strong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have all kind of those oils at home though, so I'm, like, almost used to it. I'm almost immune.
Mhm.
We use it
Well.
as, like so now it's
Mhm.
diluted, but just to give you an example, we
Mhm.
have, I get nosebleeds a lot,
Oh,
and
really?
so my mom makes this swab that I can put up my nose to, like, prevent that, it just kinda, like, moistens it,
Mhm.
and it is diluted, so there's, like, almond oil, but there's peppermint oil in that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's just like,
I do think peppermint keeps spiders away. Like, if you spritz your home
keeps
or your
mice
windowsills
away.
mice?
I know
That's
because
funny.
every single time we get a mouse in this house,
Hmm.
there's this large bottle. It's this big,
Mhm.
and it is pretty much straight peppermint, and there might be, like, water in it, just like a transportation device for the
Yeah,
oil.
yeah.
We spray this house so bad, and everything just smells like peppermint.
It is a cool smell. We used to
I
live
like it.
way out in the woods in a tiny little sort of refitted cabin, and we were spraying the inside and the outside with cedar oil and peppermint spray. We were desperately trying to keep ticks out and ants and spiders and everything because the house is a warm, lovely smelling thing on stilts in the middle of the deep forest, and we never asked their permission to live there.
Right. Was this in
Um,
Australia?
no, this is here in the US a couple of years back. So
Oh, really?
we ended up having to move out of that thing. Like we couldn't last more than 2 years in there.
Ooh,
But I
ticks,
say
those are not
spiders
fun.
and peppermint because hold on, number of spiders people eat per year. If you never knew this stat, it's depressing. Um, Apparently you swallow an average of 20 in your lifetime, but it's
20?
apparently a myth. It might be 8 spiders in our sleep every year. It's like you're sleeping with your mouth open and the tiny little things sort of crawl in and then you just swallow it and you don't even notice.
Here's the thing, I believe that because I
I
sleep
don't
through
doubt
anything.
it.
So
Now here's my point. If peppermint keeps them away, then drinking peppermint cocoa or anything is like they're not going in.
keeping the spiders out of my
Yeah, there
mouth.
you go.
I've eaten a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
grasshopper before.
Really?
They sell
On
them in
purpose.
little bags, at, like, an
Oh,
event I was at. They were, like,
yeah.
Chipotle flavored or something like that. I didn't quite finish eating the scorpion, because there was a scorpion in the lollipop, and it was fine.
Oh
Problem
gosh.
is the stinger was actually cutting into my mouth as I was trying to suck on it. So I was like, "Let me not."
Let's know. Oh my god. Chad, have you ever eaten anything weird that you shouldn't have? Because that just sounds wrong. Um, Looks like Austin says, yeah, coffee is one of the things we have that lets us know God loves us. Yeah, yeah. I wonder what coffee God drinks in heaven. I
I
tell
know,
you,
right?
starting a tea shop or a cafe in heaven when I get there. Worst thing I think I remember eating probably 10 years ago. I was at my wife's grandparents' house and uh, stink bug crawled up over my head, dropped down into my salad, and I bit it in half. And there's half of it squiggling around, the other half is souring up my mouth. It's
No.
like blah, so blah blah blah. Oh, it's so bad. Lemon balm plants are useful for keeping away mosquitoes. That's true.
Nice.
Well, that's good to
Yeah,
know.
and they have a citronella oil too that we use sometimes for like bug spray.
Hmm. Oh, that's
Smells,
cool.
but it works.
Yeah. Well, okay. Now that you're here, and we got about a half hour left on the show today. Um, you watched Arcane. I want to get to that, and I want you to try to sell me on that and tell me why it's epic and maybe why, excuse me, our audience should watch that, and we can then just talk about what movies we watched this past week and what's fun and interesting to talk about. Before we do that, though, um, I did not get to any of the news that I wanted to. Partly, I wanted to wait for you to show up because it's just more fun with friends. We
Thanks.
have way too much to talk about, so we might just see how far we get
Okay.
and just kind of go through a bunch. Wait, where did you go? Oh, hold on. I want to do share screen and we'll do window. I think it's this one here because I was sharing a little bit earlier. All right. And let's go back to here, maybe. Now, I don't think you can see me, can you? I'm not even on
No, I
screen at
can't see
all.
you.
All right. Can I do this? Hello? Nope, not available. What about this one? Hey, there we are.
Yay.
Okay, if I hit the pin, oh, that's how that works. Let's undo the pin. All right, chat. Can you tell me if oh my gosh, Austin says eating weird things while he's from Louisiana. Most people say alligator and crawfish is weird. You know what's hilarious
I've
is,
eaten alligator. Alligator's good.
well, yeah, kangaroo is something people maybe don't think about, but I only ate kangaroo once because it was weird for me because we always bought kangaroo meat to feed the dog in
That's
Australia.
I've eaten a kangaroo hamburger or something. It was kangaroo meat. I think it was
Really?
kinda gamey. Like, it
Okay.
wasn't wonderful, but it wasn't bad. Tell you what
Yeah.
I don't like, I hate frog legs. That thing tastes like
Really?
the bottom of a swamp.
Maybe it's, I thought that the catfish that I once had in college was like that, and it was awful. Now, maybe there's some better catfish out there living in nicer, happier rivers. I don't know what was in the Shenandoah River or where these things were shipped in from. I didn't love it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've never had catfish. Eel is next on the list. I have some in the
I've never
freezer.
had that. You know what's, oh my gosh, ADD. Um, let's just not go there. Eels are
Okay.
okay, maybe they're cool. Chat, have you ever had eel pie or anything eely? Um, Victor says he's from Louisiana as well, near Lake Charles. What's the weirdest thing you've ever eaten, Victor? Hit us up in the chat. Okay, so Gabby, I thought there's a couple of articles maybe we can talk through. I've not looked
Mhm.
at. I've just seen them. People have sent them over. I thought, oh, let's just skim through it and see if we get anything interesting. Major thing that intrigues me about Barnes and Noble, like at all, is that it's a massive book retailer. We should
Mhm.
probably talk about Kindle as well at some point. The beautiful thing about Barnes and Noble is that they are such cool experiences, and it looks like it is turning around, and they are building so many more. That's going to be
That's exciting.
wait, why am I seeing Expedia? Go away. I don't know if I can even be able to get into this. Man, it's not even showing me. Um, darn it. Well, this article was supposed to be interesting because they opened 70 new locations last year, and they're planning on opening 60 new ones
Ooh, I
this
hope
year.
one's close to
By the
me.
way, Austin says good frogs legs are delicious.
Okay, then whatever happened with my frog legs was not good because, ugh.
So there you go. Families are from Lake Charles and Day Ritter. I don't know that area. All right. So the thing that intrigues me with Barnes and Noble, they keep improving the in-person experience. And this is going to be another post we're going to come up to at some point, hot in 2026. Where was it? It was like, um, man, that one's also gated. All right, forget it. There was something in here about authors needing or wanting to get offline. There we go. The rise of the analog bag. Hopefully, I can sort of read this too. But it's the idea that we want to get offline and read actual real books
Mhm.
because it's like a way to like de-stress from everything.
Mhm.
So these people, so he's they're getting it. And they're looking at a lot of data, and so that has got me very interested for us as authors. What should we know or pay attention to? So he's Barnes and Noble is in growth mode, and they were struggling for a while. Partly from being a good example of how to save a brand, I'm interested in what it means about why they're doing it. So back in the '90s, Daunt, he's the guy who's flipping this thing around. He was a former banker, and he set up his own indie bookstore called Daunt Books in the UK in 1990. Let's skim through a little bit. It's now grown to 10 locations. Oops, highlighting skills. It's grown to 10 locations, and it was the genesis of Barnes and Noble new culture, rooted in, quote, flattening hierarchies and empowering people at the store level, letting individual stores control the makeup of their store teams. And that's what's so fascinating. It's a return to an artisan feel. Every Barnes and Noble is different because there's different people in there, and they are paying attention to what people are mostly interested in and buying in their area, and
Mhm.
then curating that for that area.
I've noticed that, when you
Yeah.
walk out of Barnes& and Noble now, there's someone there who is asking about the books that you're buying, and they're like, "Ooh, have you read this one?" And it's like they're having a conversation with you about the books. It's not just like, "Okay, thank you for your purchase today. Have a nice day." They're actually engaging you, and they have
Interesting.
recommendations for you.
Interesting. I don't go there enough. I actually mostly go in because I don't know, I have a guilt savior complex, and I just buy cool books, not for me because they're expensive, but I buy them for my little girl because she absolutely needs to have books for herself.
Nice.
And I might go through the dollar section if I can, but like Yeah, I have a
Everybody
complex
talks
relationship
about
to
that. I have
bookstores.
yet to find the dollar section of a Barnes& and Noble. Maybe it's just where I
They
live.
hide them. Actually, you know what? You're right. I'm confusing this with Books A Million. Books A Million had a
Oh, okay.
saving section. Yeah, you're right. I could never find them at Barnes and Noble. I thought I was going crazy. Two different brands. All right. So there you go. His philosophy, which I think it feels like such a Diagon Alley approach to life, which is
Mhm.
like, you know, rules. Make the bookstores interesting and attractive as possible. And within it, have friendly, informed booksellers who enjoyed their customers and their jobs. This shouldn't be distinctively different from most bookstores, but it was. Austin says he needs to go to Barnes and Noble to get the new Dresden Files book. Do you
Is the
recommend
new
Dresden
one?
Files? Looks like you do. I'm still third of the way through reading the first one. I've never actually read it. I need to get into reading it. Apparently, it releases on the 20th. Go Dresden, if that's a thing they say. The cool kids. So
Did I just get
let's see.
déjà vu?
What?
I just got déjà vu for a second. I feel like I've heard somebody say that before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Go Dresden. There you go. So let's see. Let me just skip forward. So he wants to run them well. And that means nicely presented stores, blah, blah, blah. He moves up into the United States. And let's see, it's extremely costly to have a massive infrastructure to make every single store interesting and unique. And so just decentralize it, push that responsibility down to the individual stores, and they'll do that much better.
Which honestly just makes sense to me, even on just the plain old efficiency level. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if individual people can do it, if you can spread out the work, why would you do it all in the center?
Mm-hmm.
Let each
Yeah.
one do their job individually.
Yep. Agreed. And it's also kind of cool. I remember I was over in Arizona for a while. I
Mhm.
was taking my wife to some some medical care stuff, and what blew me away was driving around. Where were we? It was Scottsdale. We were driving around Scottsdale. I could not believe how everything looked. It was a bit like Arizona Disneyland in the sense that all of the buildings and all of the homes and the roof styles and the materials that they used were all like local for that area, built on a theme, built intentionally. It kind of like
Wow.
driving around was like, okay, it all looks like a bunch of modern homes and stuff, but it all looks intentional to this area. Nothing here looks like New England. Nothing here
Wow.
looks like Virginia. It looks like I'm in Arizona land. And of
That's
course, the whole state
cool.
looks like it's been deep crispy fried. So they're using materials that work for how hot it gets there.
Yes.
Um, and so why do I bring that up? It's because when I go there, it would kind of make sense that a Barnes and Noble or stores in that area are going to have the vibe and more of the culture and the
Yep.
needs of that area. It's just cool. It's why we travel around. I mean, 10
Exactly.
years from now, I want to see what happens with more of this kind of, decentralizing for bookstores, because then
Yeah.
a book crawl across a couple of states is going to be a really fun experience,
Yeah.
right? Plus different coffees, especially they keep doing better with coffee stores and stuff. Like,
Mhm.
who knows what the future of something like this could be. Okay, so there you go. It's increasing its focus on the shopping tastes of local communities. So scrolling down, I think mostly to the bottom, blah 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 blah. Um, obviously, as soon as you get in, and this was supposed to be the next article, and that's basically that. What I was hoping we could get through in this one here was so many. They're just putting up so many new stores, and I know that as soon as you walk in, there's like book talk, like right in front, and they've got pop
Yeah.
up stands, and it's like all over the place. And like, okay, go with obviously what pulls people in, and um, but then that means something else for the rest of us. It means that we want this.
Yeah.
We're not going. It's not going away. Who was I talking to the other day? I can't remember who it was. Somebody was saying something like books are recession proof, which is a bit nuts and awesome. No matter what happens, kind of in the culture, we're still buying books. Like,
Yeah.
don't you dare to. You can mess around with my milk and my gas, and I'll hate you for it. Don't you dare touch my books.
I don't
And
need to
those,
eat. I have to read.
yeah, there you go. Um, looks like the in chat they're saying Jim Butcher connects events in book 1 all the way into later books like book 10. So if you like connections across a whole series, I can't believe that
Oh,
they
that's
don't
cool.
have a better TV series than the one that we got. um, that just looks like it could be such a cool thing. All right, so let's jump over to this one here. We're talking about analog bag fashion's answer to doom scrolling, and I think in here is a reference to buying books. We want to get real things to get offline, to have more of that in-person experience. Where was that little thing that somebody said, hey, check this out? Let me scroll down. So the catalyst for the analog bag, which has reduced her screen time from 7 hours a day to 3, came from reading a book, The Power of Habit. And there are 3 components of a habit: cue, routine, and reward. So instead of trying to eliminate a bad habit, it's so much better to keep the cue and the reward and then just change the routine. So reach for a bag of screen free activities instead of her phone, also called a TBR, and a buckling side table as a way to stay sane. So it would be hilarious in the future. What's your sanity metric? Here's the size of mine over on my side table. It's like I've got tons of things to get through. Scroll down. What is this? This is an ad, I think. All right. Well, that was basically that. Basically, the idea is, maybe it was not in this article, but more and more people are turning to books. And I think it's an encouraging thing, because I think I did not keep it here. Some people were talking, I saw it on Substack. They were talking about, we'll get to this article in a second. They were talking about nobody's reading. It's almost impossible to find and to be able to make sales. And it's becoming more and more impossible. And somebody on Substack had this hilarious idea of like, we just need to troll as hard as political pundits do and straight up lie and just, create dumpster fires to start getting attention because it's working for them. Why do we got to be the good guys? And we're like, well, I know what you're saying, but like, and the algorithms pay attention to this sort of
Let's
stuff.
discuss that.
But yeah, what do you lose by doing that? I'm not sure that's a good idea. To look at news like that from Barnes and Noble is like, okay, it's just a matter of finding the right thing.
Exactly.
And I think if we as indie authors, obviously we're talking about traditional book setups, and that's a massive thing to get into. I'm really interested in what happens with the rise of indie books. So I didn't bring this up, and I was thinking about doing it. Let's go there now for a second. Let me see.
It's really exciting to think about how indie books could do in the future because, recently, Goodreads Choice Awards, so like the most popular books of the year,
Yeah.
a lot of them started out as indie authors. Like you
Uh-huh.
think of Powerless by Lauren Roberts, who, by the way,
Okay.
has the same cover designer as me.
Oh, really?
Top of the Goodreads
Flex.
bestseller list. Yeah. Top of the Goodreads Choice Awards list, New York Times
Wow.
bestseller. She was
Okay.
indie published.
What
Frida
about
McFadden.
your that sort of Hogwarts fan fiction that became its own thing that's like huge you were telling me about?
Alchemized. Yep,
Yeah.
same thing. That
Wasn't it
was
also
so
indie?
sort of. It was on like AO3. It was like
Okay.
it wasn't Wattpad, but it was like it was on a fan fiction site.
Yeah.
So it's really the only not issue, but the only thing I'm noticing so far is that in order for people to pay the kind of attention to these books where it gets into the Goodreads Choice Awards and it gets into the actual bookstores kind of a thing, is that first a traditional publisher has to pick it up. I would be really fascinated for the next step is just to have indie authors just be there on their own.
Yeah. And so then the question is, what do you got to do to to get that kind of attention? But I think I saw this in this past year, and I keep coming back to this. It's such a great example. I think that the author for Silo, the huge Apple series,
Yes.
I think he was an indie author, and
Really?
I should literally go up and look this up. So I'm
Well, The
not quoting
Martian
an
was
idea.
indie published.
And then they've just absolutely blown up. So there's
Yep.
like, I think that this is my working suspicion. These mega companies and whatever, they're recognizing we're getting a lot of slop written for the market,
Mhm.
and that is being turbo shipped to agents and everything everywhere, and it's just exhausting, and there's nothing unique about it, and rightly so. And then you add to that, which is partly what this article here is. Am I pointing the right way? This article here is about, which is we're now seeing a rise of AI slop that is crafted not even for people. It's purely crafted to rip off the algorithm and to
Mhm.
steal market share and steal money away from actual creators. That's just not going to stop until we start doing some maybe simple little stuff to validate and sort of verify human
Right.
authorship, human creativity.
Right.
At this point, I think I'm all for that. I'm not all for witch hunts for anybody using AI at any part of
Yeah,
the
because
process.
that gets messy.
Yeah, I'm 100% somebody creating a bot farm or a factory farm to study trends, create slop, auto post it to try to steal money away from actual creators. We should absolutely, I can't think of a reason why you wouldn't demonetize that, or at least not allow them to earn money. If that's going to happen, fine, can't stop it, don't have to pay for it. absolutely
Right,
needs to go to
exactly.
creators. I think this is going to keep happening for indie authors. And I think that there might be some kind of a talent scout thing, and they may even be using AI as well to do it. Where are we seeing rave reviews on brand new titles with
Mhm.
less numbers of bloated reviews, but these reviews seem like they're really written by real people and they're very intentional, right?
Right.
Or where authors like really, small YouTubers with really intense communities, what are they writing, and see if there's like a thing there, right?
Right.
How can this not be I have a sense this is where stuff's going to go.
Oh, yeah.
This so this article here was what I just literally described is coming out of this article. The case for paying 25% of Spotify tracks at zero. What he's saying is there's an influx in Spotify of bot farms just creating and shipping stuff. Now, again, one thing is when you're using AI to help you with part of the creative process. Another thing is when a bot farm is simply printing an industrial factory line stuff and just shipping
Yeah.
it, not with any intent of building an audience, purely to get streams, to steal and take money away. The more that happens, as you can see, Spotify has a fixed royalty pool that it can pay. It can't um, distribute that towards actual authors
Mm.
because it's all being captured by outperforming
Yeah.
robots. So his answer for it was actually kind of cool. I thought it was pretty cool. Was you just create a simple um, identity verification thing, the same way that if you want to make money anywhere else online, you got to show like here's my. You got to validate human authorship,
Yeah.
right? You got to do it on Meta. You have to do it on
Excuse me.
I don't know Stripe, like anything. Here's a copy of my driver's license, which
Right.
solves most things, right? If you can't do that within a fixed time frame, you get nothing. And if you can, you validated human authorship.
I think
Um,
that is
I think it's an
rather
awesome idea.
perfectly valid. I think it's
Yeah,
valid. I think it's simple, straightforward, doesn't seem to have a lot of, like, hiccups.
no,
It just looks good.
I think so too. I think it adds, and then it instantly, like this sort of red line, that instantly goes away, and boom, authors go back to doubling, tripling, maybe even
Right.
finally being able to make enough to actually kind of survive,
Right.
depending on that amount. Um, I was researching a topic on Amazon Kindle and looking for additional books, and absolutely frustrated at the amount of overtly purely AI shipped stuff that was dropped into there. Covers are bad, titles are bad, descriptions are bad. Content inside was absolutely created by AI and then just shipped to Kindle. Um,
Whew.
that needs to go away.
Yeah, it does
It does not deserve to
immediately.
compete, right? Um, anyhow, so that's the whole thing. Again, for those who think like, oh, he's an AI, what do you call it? Shill. It's like, no, I'm against slop from
Right,
AI
exactly.
and from people. Okay.
I don't know
I
the
was curious. Yeah.
logistics of this, but I almost wonder if there should be like a separate site. Like, here is Amazon Kindle and here is Kindle AI,
Hmm.
which I'm not sure. I don't understand why people would read AI. Do you think they don't recognize that it's AI? Do you think they're reading it and they're like, "Oh, well, maybe this is actually a book." Like, I don't understand why someone would willingly pick up that book when there is
Well, as it is right now, um, hmm. As it is right now, uh, slop is being shipped on the hope that it will take away some money from others
Mhm.
purely by there being, when you search on a topic, there's 50 options that are AI generated. And half of them, for example, might be this is exactly what's happening over on Spotify.
Mhm.
It's one uh, creator creating 10 profiles and shipping the same content on all profiles
Oh.
as a way to like maximize the chance of getting streams and stuff. Well, that's happening over on Kindle too. You see multiple people who have like one book, zero time on platform, zero engagement on anything, 50 books. And you're like, wait, hold on. How did you
How?
in the last year? Like, okay.
Right.
So it's uh, because you get millions of people using Kindle, some portion of that, of course, ends up creating enough money for them to be able to keep playing
Gotcha.
the game. And now obviously people buy this stuff because there's millions of people who don't have time to read everything, and they're assuming that a book means somebody put a ton of thought into something.
Gotcha.
Um, But over time, I think we're going to continue wising up, just like we
Yeah.
did in the early days of the internet, and especially as we get past what happens when there's like a new tech, right?
Mhm.
Like with TV and then with the internet, people who are native to that tech know when it's crap,
Right.
as opposed to people who are still kind of getting used to it or being introduced to it.
Mhm.
So in the past, it was like, well, I saw it on TV. It must be real. And then the TV generation goes, you can't believe everything on TV. And then the generation after that goes like, you can't believe anything online anymore with like AI. And then those of us who are digital natives go, when could you ever? Like, it's mental hygiene. You don't trust anything
Anything at all.
ever. And
Assume it's a
it's
lie.
well, it's a book and it was available for sale and there was a real author. It's like,
That is
did you look at the
insane.
reviews? Did you Google them online? Did you use
Mhm.
AI to do a pulse check, or audit of the state of who this person is? Like anything,
Mhm.
like triangulate your data. Anyhow. All right. What do you think, Gabby, about this one? Chapters are shrinking to suit the short attention span of TikTok readers. Have you heard of this? Are you familiar with anything like this? Um, and
Actually,
yeah.
not that specifically. I haven't heard that take on it, only for
Mhm,
the fact that, to my mind, the way that I've always, seen books do it, it's that there are short chapters for different kinds of books and long chapters for other so there have always been short chapters.
mhm,
I'm thinking of, there's Ali Condi who wrote the Selection series. She also wrote this book called The Last Girl in Town or something
mhm,
very close to that. I really enjoyed it. It was a YA book, so maybe 300 and change pages long, and it had like over 100 chapters.
okay.
And this was, I suppose it was around the time of TikTok, but it was before I'd heard anything like this. So I don't know necessarily if the chapters are inherently shortening because of TikTok, because then there are others like Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. That thing is a brick and the chapters are long. And that also was relatively recent around the time of TikTok.
Mhm,
That said, I can see the appeal to that because I've been trying to do this myself where, okay, we're talking about trying to like get away from, the phone and the media and the stimulation and
mhm.
stuff. Okay. So I read over 100 books last year. Um
Wow.
it was
I was gonna say, you're always awesome for just dropping titles for whenever you want to talk about something.
Oh, it's just again, it's just the, like I don't know. Sometimes I just sit there and I decide to pick up a book and I decide to read it, and last year I did that a lot, and I'm tired. I
Mm,
wouldn't say I'm in a reading slump because I'm not, I still want to read, I just want to read slowly, but I
mhm,
have noticed that because of last year, particularly in December, because I wanted to hit my goal of 100 full-size books. So I read 100 full size and then like 16 that were either like graphic novels or they were a little bit shorter or something like that. I read 27 books in December alone.
mm.
And
Wow.
so because of that, the mindset for me at that time
Mhm,
was get it done. I want to feel the accomplishment of finishing a book. And
mhm,
so now I'm having to like almost untrain myself from that because when I sit down and I read a chapter of whatever else the case may be, I get a
mhm.
little shot of adrenaline when I finish a chapter.
Right.
Not adrenaline, dopamine. I get a little shot of dopamine when I finish a chapter. And so it's really hard for me to not try and like tear through it and count how many pages I have left and zip through as
Mhm,
fast as I possibly can. I'm reading this book right now called The Red Palace by June Her. Very good. It is a Korean historical mystery and I love it. Korean as in the set in Korea. The author is Korean American, I believe.
mhm,
And the chapters, they're not excruciatingly long, but they're not short. They're like, 15, 18 pages or whatever, which is about 15, 18 minutes of reading. And so I am having to consciously be like, stop, slow down. Take the full 20 minutes to read the thing. It's
mhm,
okay. Don't try and shoot through it. So while I have not heard of this before, and while
mm,
I think there have always been short chapters and there will always continue to be long chapters, I do see the appeal of this.
mhm. It doesn't well, let me get to chat just for a second here. So, Victor was saying, going back to talking about AI, being a video professional and having an eagle eye for AI stuff, I am more and more getting a good chunk of a way through a video before realizing it's AI. It's true. It's becoming very good. The only difference is, to my mind, when you have, um, when you can tell. the script of a video was AI, and then they put it through some like a generator that just attaches artwork to it, and then they just run off the video and then ship it, and then you're like, I don't even know if I can trust this. Like the number of videos that I found on this, I can't stand them. Absolutely hate them. Um,
Like
then the
those
second
videos.
tier of thing that I can't stand is when I see somebody very earnestly sitting on screen and they're speaking out of AI stuff. Like you can tell the script and then they're reading it word for word. You can develop a style and AI can kind of mimic it, but there's a point at which AI has a default style on its own. And I have a hard time when I see an author or somebody and I can see you're reading a little teleprompter on your screen and it's straight out of chat. And I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, do 5% of your own something to like make it a little more you. But I can understand, why chat can be very helpful for it. But it's like I still gripe at that because I'm like,
Mhm.
I want to know that something actually genuinely came from you. Um, anyhow. So, but yeah, they are getting better. That's can be a
What's
cool
funny is
thing
that
and
I've
can be.
noticed that the picture, like the video quality of AI has gotten really good. What
Mhm,
hasn't is the words.
mhm,
It's the speaking part that just sounds so stilted, and I can tell it's a like, I'm thinking specifically
yeah.
sometimes it's a joke, like, 2 people will make a joke, and I'm like, "That wasn't even funny," and then the laugh that the people do is just horrendous. I'm like, "That's not how humans laugh."
Oh gosh,
But,
yeah, I can't take that.
like, when they have the babies, and they'll have, like, a baby say a full sentence that no baby can ever say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then the adult just reacts as if it's the most hilarious, innocent thing that they've ever heard, and I'm no, have you hung around a baby?
Yeah, it's weird. It's like a
It
weird
is.
fun house. um, Victor says I flipped through almost 100 books last year. I was proud of myself. I think I probably downloaded 100 Kindle samples because I don't have enough money to like buy everything I want. So like,
Mhm.
do I want to come back and reread that sample when I'm done? Like that's maybe an indicator. Like, am I thinking about it a month later? Okay, I should
That's
probably come
good.
back and buy it.
That's a good idea.
The funny thing about this here, though, looking at the size of chapters, some I'm not sure that this is really a. I kind of want to say it might be a nothing burger conversation, only because one, you chapters have to start somewhere.
Mhm.
Two, I grew up reading Nancy Drew, Hardy Boys, Three Investigators, Trixie Belden, like all of these, multi-series, completely predictable. And that's why they were awesome. Every single book was exactly the same as the others, and it's exactly why I love them. Um, the plots are incredibly formulaic, and that was to their glory. And the chapters were short intentionally to keep you going and keep you with that feeling of progress and stuff. So it's always been a thing. And so they're comparing, book talk stuff, which is its own argument, to a lot of classical stories. Like these are books that were never, I'm going to assume they weren't written for a book talk generation. They were written for the 50s, 40s generation. Um, Kids who are more mature, a little older, 4,500 words. You pick up any adult book, I'm sure it's a little slower, it's probably more like this. I'd be curious to know what Danielle Steele, how long, or Tom Clancy, how long, or Stephen King, like those chapters are like, hold my word count, let's just get into this. So, okay, I think that's basically, I mean, it's also true. We can talk about stuff like dopamine and whatever, but at the same time, I mean, people talk about these whole dopamine things like they don't have the attention spans of goldfish. And I'm like, goldfish don't know they're trying to hold an attention span. Like, it's not a fair comparison. And two,
Right.
Joe Rogan is off the charts in that it's a 3 hour thing. Like, look at the number of podcasts. Like, look at us. 3 hours. If you're still here, Victor and Austin, you two are heroes. Look at your attention spans, you goldfish, you. So it depends on if you have earned the right to keep someone's attention. And I think people are mad because it used to be so much easier to get attention just because I did a chicken soup and everybody showed up and like because there was nothing else to watch. Well, now you got 50,000 options. You got to work hard to actually demonstrate value and earn attention. So let's
And
see.
also, I mean, I don't
Go
think
ahead.
the it's the worst thing to have, like, short chapters because the book is still the same length. So it's
It's
like
true.
it's like, who
A younger
cares?
audience is also it. Yeah, you think it also just depends on your audience. Like fast action based stuff, it works well. Victor's talking about the uncanny valley is never going to be overcome. That's a really interesting thought. I'd never actually considered that. I think we'll still hit a point where video and audio, is as perfect as it can be, and we'll still reject what we're seeing in our core being. I think there's something there. That's a very interesting thought. I need to mull on for a minute.
I read a little prompt on Instagram that was like the fact that there's the natural fear of the uncanny valley implies that there was an evolutionary kind of reason for us to be afraid of something that looked human but wasn't quite. And I'm like, or evolution was ahead of its time and it was preparing us for AI videos.
Well, I that was in the back of my mind. I couldn't remember it well enough. Thanks for bringing it up.
Oh,
I think there's something there. I
I
don't know
do.
what it is, but I think there's definitely something there more than just schnitz and giggles. Okay, Austin says regarding chapter length, Brandon Sanderson has really long chapters and 1 or 2 page chapters in his Stormlight series. Yeah, well, think about our beloved Twilight, Stephanie Meyer, and the chapter that goes November, right? Or whatever it was, September was over. It's just a one-word chapter. Okay. I don't think that we're going to get through everything else. So we're just going to have to come back and do this next week.
Yeah.
I want to talk about these 2026 trends for authors, predictions for
Ooh,
indie publishing, because I think that's going to keep being a big deal for our community. How does an indie author become a one-person production studio? I'm fascinated by that question. And then we've
as am
got
I.
2026, again, more author trends you need to know. I think this is going to be fun. We'll come back to it next year. And here we go. Look at this. Okay, we got way too much to get through. Also, if you haven't heard of them, there are 10 upcoming writer conferences for indie authors.
Oh, would you look at
So
that?
I wasn't really gonna. I don't know. Like, there's Writers Digest University, and there's I don't know, IPNE conference. I have no idea what these conferences are. San Diego Writers Festival. That's the kind of thing that authors dig. What I might do is take all of these links and put them together in a blog post and just ship them under sort of the news clip, from this one here. I think we covered most of the stuff. We'll come back to that next week. We had talked about this as an indie, and then I want you to tell me about Arcane. Again, coming back to this last thought, you cannot thrive as an indie author while waiting to be accepted by the machine. The posture is self-defeating. You'll make branding decisions that serve neither goal. You'll pull punches to stay palatable, and worst of all, you'll build an audience you don't actually want, full of people who will abandon you the moment that you say something unapproved. Anything go through your mind as you read or you hear that, Gabby?
Well, yes. Who was it the other day? Allie Hazelwood. Not the other day, it was last year. But who remembers when Allie Hazelwood said that she liked Gail better than PETA? And all of the internet just rose up against her.
I
Like,
wasn't there for that.
she made
Sorry.
a laughing comment about her opinion on the Hunger Games, and she
Wow.
had to get off of Instagram because everybody else had risen up against her so hard.
Mhm.
And number one, as an indie author, so as a as a traditional author, no, an author who is traditionally published, that's hard enough in itself. But at least, you have the publisher backing you. You still got, clout. You've got other people worrying about your other things. You probably have a PR assistant, whatever the case may be. Um, as an indie author, when you're trying to do all of that yourself and then people hate you, you don't got time for that. So
Yeah.
if you're expecting to try and get to everyone who is going to get upset when you say something that is not for everyone, yeah, that's just absolutely self-defeating. And also it defeats the purpose of indie publishing. I mean, you're indie publishing because you're publishing something that traditional publishers are not going to pick up, and traditional publishers are only going to pick up the stuff that is safe to sell because they need to make money, they have people to feed. I can't it's frustrating in a way, but I can't completely fault um traditional publishers for playing it a little safe because you are a massive business. You've got employees to feed. You got to make money. What you going to do? Okay, fine. I get that.
Mhm.
But if you're indie publishing, that means you're not trying to be part of that. So don't lean into yourself. Lean into that controversial thing you have to say, that new take on whatever. You got to lean into you. And that is what like it said, you're going to find the audience that is just right for you. Because as much as traditional publishers appeal to the masses, that doesn't mean that there aren't people who want something other than for the masses. You
Mhm.
have an audience. They just happen to be subsumed into the masses for now because that's what is being published. But when they find you, they are going to be your diehard fans.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, probably the last thought here from Victor. He says the current monoculture. I love that word mono. You throw it on stuff and it's so good. Monoculture of reading, like book talk, prioritizes volume and speed and the performative aspect of reading and showcasing books. Yeah, that's a thing too. When that's what happens when I mean, frankly, narcissists ruin everything for everybody. They don't genuinely care. They are phenomenal at performative anything,
Mhm.
collecting, talking about it, demonstrating, and then something goes wrong and then they're gone. And
Mhm.
that's why I do think sometimes you don't have to be better than somebody else. You just have to outlast them. Just got to
Mhm.
wait a minute longer. And then they'll flake because didn't happen as fast as I wanted it to. So let's close with some wonderful writing advice, which I think is absolutely perfect. Controversial writing tip: open a document and start writing. Blocked.
I love that.
All right. And let's come back here to our main screen. Where's us? There we go. Tell me about Arcane
Okay.
and why you thought it was cool and why you think I should watch it.
All right. So first, okay, I'm gonna get a little bit of the thing out of the way, which is it kind of was the perfect vibe for me. Like I love steampunk. I love
Mhm.
that kind of sci fantasy. That is exactly my genre. So it kind of had a little bit of an advantage in for me. It had an advantage for my preferences, but I still think it is an absolutely phenomenal show for a couple of reasons.
Mhm.
Number 1, the art style. Like, it's just beautiful to watch, kind of like how when K-pop Demon Hunters came out, and it was just a style of animation that we hadn't really seen before, but it was just compelling, it was beautiful, it was
Mhm.
bright, it was, it just satisfied that creative itch in your mind. First of all, that's the first thing, the art style is incredible.
Yeah.
Second, even though it's not necessarily a high fantasy where we have a lot of explanation for, the history and how magic works, I still think that the world building is impressive, particularly because of, again, the animation. You get to see the different kinds of people, you get to see the different styles, the different creatures, and how they all interact with each other. And then the story itself builds on that. So that's the second reason. It's
Mhm.
nice that you don't need to know anything about the video game. Yeah, because I have never played League of Legends. I know nothing about it, but Arcane was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Most
And
amazing thing.
I did play League of Legends with my wife for years before it, and was really bad. Won maybe once or twice. So I've got a little bit more of a sense of who the characters are. But you're right, it is the art style. That's actually one thing I completely loved about it, and how
Yes.
they made that work. And like, I want to see more of that. All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
So, then I wanna get into the characters. I loved the characters so much, every single one of them, because, they weren't deep on the level of, say, like, a literary fiction. It's not like we it's not they weren't that complex, but
Mhm.
each one was a little bit unexpected, and not a single one of them was two-dimensional.
Mhm.
So, the main character, Vi, she's kinda like the tough streets girl, but she has got such a tender, protective, loving heart at the same time. And then you have Jace, who is the inventor, but it would be really easy to make him just kind of like the sequestered away in his room, doesn't talk to anybody, but he's not. He's charming, he's out there, he winds up becoming a big part of ruling the society. Then you have the what's her name? Mel. She has a last name. I don't remember her last name. Her name is Mel. She really easily could have been, and I thought she was going to be, solely this very manipulative, ambitious, starts with kind of the bare minimum and rises to the top kind of a character. And she is a little bit, but she's actually also a genuinely good person who thinks about other people and the impacts it's going to have on other people. Even Jinx herself, who is psycho. She's just absolutely she's absolutely crazy, but you see how she got there, and you have a heart for her, you feel for her. For crying out loud, the bad guy with, like, the cybernetic eye, Silco,
Mhm.
I didn't quite cry at the end about him, but I won't spoil anything, but something happened in his progression as a character where he wasn't just the purely evil man anymore, he was a complete person. So I think the character development on all of them is absolutely fantastic. And
Amazing.
then the plot itself.
Mhm.
I really enjoy the plot itself because I wouldn't say there was ever a particular twist. So it's not like, "Oh, I'd never see that plot twist coming." It wasn't like that, but just each moment, what I thought was going to happen next did not happen next. It just took a little bit of a different turn to what was the most obvious thing, and so then I was like, "Oh, well, now what's going to happen?" You know, I was thinking of, okay, Jace, is trying to promote the next level of his tech to the world, and his mentor advises him against it because magic is dangerous and you got to develop it more. You can't just like churn it out, right?
Mhm.
So I thought for certain. Oh, and the conflict is great too because I'll give you an example here. Jace wants to develop this new piece of tech, particularly because his friend Victor, um, he's ill, and Victor's my boy. Oh my goodness, Victor is my boy. So this new tech is going to be able to help Victor, and Victor has been working on it too. And it's like, it's this great thing we did. We can help people, but his mentor is telling him, no, don't do it. It's going to be dangerous. And so there's this conflict in between, or this conflict in him. You know, do I help people with this tech, or do I not risk possibly accidentally hurting them with the tech? And I thought, you know, he gets in front of the crowd, and I thought, "Oh, surely he's going to ignore his teacher. He's gonna launch the tech, like, of course, that's what they all do." And he didn't. And again, it wasn't a plot twist. It was just, "Oh, well, now what's going to happen? What's going to happen next in the story?" And that is exactly how each scene, episode kind of progressed, where I was on my toes. I didn't know what was going to happen next. And the political workings, again, not the deepest of all, you know, epic high fantasy things, but it made
Mhm.
sense. It was logical. Someone was thinking about it. And then, of course, the cliffhanger. So
Well, I know I think I'm gonna give season 2 a try.
you
It seems
should.
like it's gone I remember I think I enjoyed the end sort of the season. For some
Mhm.
reason, it didn't click for me, and again, I'm probably in the wrong headspace, when I was trying to get through it, so yeah, what you've described does sound really cool. Have you watched anything else, over the last couple of weeks that you liked?
Let me think. I started to watch Frankenstein. Now, I can't really
Oh,
speak to it because I got all of like maybe 10 minutes in.
mhm,
Um, I am intrigued to see where it goes next because it's not quite hitting the vibe for me yet. I don't know what it is about it, like where they're in. I almost said Siberia. Maybe it's
mhm.
Siberia, but they're far up north. They're trying to get to the North Pole, and the ship is frozen. And maybe it was something about the music, maybe it was something about the lighting choice, or just the way that the monster is introduced right at the beginning, but none of it struck me as eerie or dark. It kind of just struck me as a Frankenstein movie. Now, whether
Mhm.
that changes later, maybe. I'm almost curious. Okay, I don't know if you've seen, I haven't watched it, but um I've listened to a piece of the soundtrack, which is really beautiful. It's the new version of Dracula, I think it's French, and it's romantic. So not quite
I haven't seen
Twilight,
it, no.
but it is a romantic take on Dracula. I'm curious, now you've seen it. Does it take
I
kind
don't
of a
think I've
turn
seen
like that in
this. I don't
Frankenstein?
think I've seen this version.
No, but
I
you've
mean, I've
seen
seen
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein, yeah. Oh, no, I did enjoy Frankenstein. It was
Okay,
not what I expected. I
okay.
was expecting something a whole lot more, um, just dark and maybe scary and more of a horror thing, but
Yeah,
it's
because the preview
actually
looked like that.
that's how they sold it because it's Del Toro, but it's actually, a little more epic, more sensitive, it's much more
Oh.
romantic. Um,
Okay, okay.
it's gripping and serious, but it's not a horror story. Not like, uh, Cabinet of Curiosities or some of his other ones.
Yeah,
He's got an overriding sensitivity towards his topic. If you've seen The Shape of Water, for example,
I haven't, but I know what it's
um,
about.
yeah, similar sort of thing of like, um, you've got a monster in the story. Are you sure you understand what it is?
Gotcha,
Are you sure it's the monster? That's
gotcha.
routinely, I think, his meditation, his reflection. Um, yeah, you'll see. I think right at the end. I'm curious if you get this. Maybe we'll pick it up once you finish. If if you get all the way through the actual Siberia thing, location, I think is itself a message that the very
Okay.
last two shots of the movie suddenly make a little bit more sense of.
Okay.
Um, Maybe. At least it did for me. It got me thinking a little bit. So I'm curious if you enjoy it.
Okay, I'm
Um,
glad you told me that because I'm gonna have to completely reset my expectations because I was going in for a horror movie. Like one of my favorite horror movies of all time is The Voyage of the Demeter. Have you ever
oh
seen
my
that?
gosh. No, I've seen the thumbnail for it, but I never watched
Oh,
it.
I love that movie so much.
Really?
Yes,
Okay.
I
I'll have
do.
to I will check it out.
So I was expecting it to be more like that.
Mhm.
And Voyage of the Demeter, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to get past my just I love it and like analyze it a little bit. I'm not sure if it's necessarily like the deepest movie ever. Like I'm sure Guillermo del Toro has a message in Frankenstein. I think Voyage of the Demeter is
Yeah.
more just really good people. I think that's what I love so much. I loved every person in that movie, and I was
Okay.
rooting for them, and I wanted them to win. And the suspense and the horror was so well done. Because then on the flip side, you
Wow.
have like, you know, the I haven't seen it, but I've seen the preview of The
Mhm.
Monkey by Stephen King with Theo James. Love him.
Okay.
Where it's just Final Destination type horror where it's just splatter and the most
Mm.
out of pocket, uncanny ways to
Yeah.
die and spread brains and stuff like that. I don't love that. I like it when it's suspenseful, and yes, of course, there's gonna be blood because it's a
Yeah,
horror
yeah.
movie. Um, anyway, that was my long roundabout way of saying that's why I love the Demeter. Again, I'm not sure it's super deep, but I loved each of the characters and I was rooting for them, and the horror and suspense was done really well. I was expecting that out of Frankenstein, but now I'm gonna have to recalibrate myself.
Yeah, yeah. I was too. It delivered something different. I don't know that I'd rewatch it again, necessarily. I don't say it was my total favorite, but it did some very cool things, and it was visually amazing to watch.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, maybe we'll come back to that. A couple of quick comments. I have not seen Pluribus, but Victor enjoyed Pluribus. I am going to give Knight of the Seven Kingdoms a go as soon as I can. So I'm looking forward to that one. And House of David. I've
House
had a
of
friend
David was
also
good.
telling me it was very good. Yeah, I need to give it a go.
I think it needs to be
Austin,
like 2 episodes shorter, but it
really?
was it was very good.
Okay.
And I like what they are doing with it, where I feel like they're gonna, like, take multiple seasons and do his entire life, which makes me think that they're also going to get into the full story of David, which is a little bit of a gripe that I haven't seen the
Hmm,
cartoon David, so I can't really
okay.
speak to it. But I have a feeling that if they didn't even show Goliath die in that show, they're not going to get into, some other ill choices that David made later in his life, with
Interesting.
Bathsheba and Uriah, which to me is a little bit frustrating and misleading. Because if you want to make a movie about David and Goliath, fine, do that. That's great. But they extend it into him becoming a king and everything,
Hmm,
which is also great. But if you're going to do the full life story, I feel like you need to do the good and the bad and the ugly. Otherwise, you're just kind of
interesting.
cherry
Yeah.
picking which pieces, and it doesn't really give a full picture of
Hmm.
what actually happened, which I think just doesn't do justice to the Bible and the actual
Well, that's
story.
interesting. The fact that you said that, I didn't know that's what they did. So it kind of sounds like, excuse me, they want to use his life to tell a specific story, and it's not a biopic. And so then the
Right,
question is, what is a story that they want to tell through his life?
right.
I'll be interesting to look for that. Okay, Austin says he just finished the Wingfeather Saga season 3, and he enjoyed it. It looks like he was surprised it didn't shy away from hard topics like death and conflict
Oh,
and
good.
even suffering. So that's pretty cool. All right, we got a wrap. Gosh, what have I watched recently? Last thing that I watched was the new film The Rip with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, which was really fun and
They're back at it again.
fast paced. So that was very cool. So The Rip was very fun.
I'm gonna have to look at
Starting
that.
Frieren, which is an anime
I didn't know you
recommended by
watched anime.
a friend. Occasionally, depends on what it
Nice.
is. Um, Last one I watched that was anime was I got through almost all the way through. Oh gosh, what is that show called? Where they Titans
Oh, yeah,
or
Attack on
or
Titan.
Titan? Yeah. So I got through almost all of that, and that was a lot of that was amazing. Got through halfway through Death Note and
I got
Unlikely
about
Hero, I think
halfway
is
through
another
the
one.
first season of Death Note.
Yeah. Okay. Some of it is an acquired taste for sure. Freerun looks like it's kind of fun. It's a little bit heartwarming to go back and
Oh, really?
get into that. I'm enjoying the first episode so far. So,
Do you
yeah,
watch
that's
Demon
mostly me.
Slayer?
Demon Slayer. I don't think so. No.
Okay.
Oh, you mentioned horror earlier. I just
Mhm.
remembered there was one vampire movie, total horror fest, that I ended up actually kind of really enjoying,
Oh, okay.
and it was called Blood Red Sky.
Really?
And it
Okay.
was literally taking really horrible vampires, putting them up in an airplane, 60, 50,000 feet or whatever, and then just creaming the whole flight. And then crashing it and then trying to take care of them. And it was like,
Oh, that sounds
oh,
fun.
just bring a lot of popcorn. Don't expect anything big.
Yeah.
All right,
That
we
still
gotta,
sounds so fun.
yeah. All right, we gotta wrap this. We've gone on for a long thing. I need a strepsil for my throat. I've overtalked. But thanks for coming on, Gabby, and thanks for friends
Absolutely.
for
Thanks for having
hanging
me.
out, Austin and Victor. It was so cool to have you with us. Oh, look at this. Austin says Freerin is one of the best anime I've watched, and he's watching Apothecary Diaries.
Apothecary Diaries makes me laugh so hard.
Really, you've seen it?
I've seen parts of it, and it's just like the shtick is that okay. So there's Mao Mao, who's she's an apothecary for the royal family, and then there's it starts with a J. I don't know what his name is. I'm just gonna call him. I was about to spoil something. The guy. I'm just gonna call
Mhm.
him the guy. He throughout the series has the worst crush and is falling in love with her, but she's completely oblivious to it. And because she's an apothecary, she'll like taste food to see if it's poisoned, or she'll actually like swallow some poison to see if how bad it is.
Oh
And
gosh.
it horrifies him every time. He's like, spit it out, throw it up. And she's sitting there like, what's wrong?
Maybe I'll check that out. That sounds
It's so
hilarious.
funny.
They're always such off the wall concepts. They're like,
Exactly.
okay, I have to watch this now.
Now I have to
This is me.
exactly.
All right. Friends, keep writing if you've got questions at any point about anything, except like I said before, don't ask me if a lightsaber can cut through Superman, because that was an I think I butchered that question. But if you got any other question on anything, drop it in the comments, drop it under the videos. I'll try to bring those up and talk about them next time. It's going to be either Wednesday or Thursday of next week, probably Thursday. I think I've got a couple of guests coming, so we'll talk about more writing habits and author marketing, indie marketing stuff, and maybe I'll have Gabby back on and we can talk about additional movies that we've watched in the interim and give you an update on what's happening with the Legend Fiction community. We do have a flash fiction writing challenge going on starting this Friday as of this recording. So if you're not in it, get in there, come and check it out and hang out with us. It's write 1,000 words in 3 days on one specific word that we will drop on Friday. So you got to be there. We also have a tournament going on for our word count warriors. So if you're not yet checking that out and building up your squad of 4 authors to outright the competition and then claim the banner and hold it for as long as possible. That's what the tournament is for. It's just an added layer of fun to keep you writing. And that's kind of the point. May the lore be with you. Keep writing. Have fun. Hopefully we'll see you next week.
See you then.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.